And right now, fears of a gas shortage is leaving some gas stations without fuel.
So this comes after cyber criminals hacked the country's largest pipeline. Ada's on your side with Marco Villarreal, and Marco is live in Tampa. And Marco, what does the gas station look like there today where you are? Do they have gas?
Well, it's a good question. We're right out here on Kennedy and Tampania at the Marathon here, and it looks like they do have gas, but where most people are going to be able to see an impact is when it comes to the actual prices. Those are starting to go up, and a lot of people, a lot of drivers are seeing this gas panic buying set in.
We still have gas, not much. The prices is going up.
I was a little low on gas anyhow, so I said, you know what, I'm going to fill up just to be sure.
What happened to the last gas station?
No gas.
Well, around the Bay Area, we're seeing gas stations bagging up the pumps as they run out of fuel from Sarasota to Pasco County, but state authorities say it's not the shutdown of the Colonial Pipeline that's causing problems. It's drivers panicking and rushing to fill up and hoard fuel. Commissioner of Agriculture Nikki Fried urged people to not panic buy gasoline. And what we're seeing right now is what Mark Jenkins with AAA says we see before and after a hurricane. Ships continue to deliver fuel at Port Tampa Bay, but prices will still impact us just a couple of weeks away from the Memorial Day holiday weekend.
Throughout a lot of states here in the Southeast, gasoline sales are up 2 to 3 times compared to normal levels. So there is a tremendous amount of people who are converging at the pump at one time.
So the governor did declare a state of emergency because of that cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline. But here in Florida, expect some places that might not have gas, but they should be getting refueled pretty soon here, because again, it's just the drivers that are kind of causing this panic shortage in the Bay Area. For now, reporting live in Tampa, Marco Villarreal, 8 on your side.
All right.
And we start this hour with breaking news about the gas shortage impacting the Carolinas. Within the past hour, we have learned the Colonial Pipeline is back up and running. Days after a cyber attack shut it down. That pipeline is a major supplier of fuel for the East Coast. And the situation prompted, of course, as we've seen all across the area, long lines at gas stations. Today, yesterday, previous days, this is the scene at the BP station on Yorkmont Road. Panic buying, like a domino effect, causing more people to go out and fill up their tanks, even if they don't really need gas right now.
And with the pipeline back online, there is an end in sight, but it's going to take a while to get the supply back to normal levels as drivers rush to fill up. This gas station on Tyvola Road, one of dozens of local stores running out of gas today. WCNC Charlotte is seeking solutions. In just a moment, we're breaking down where you can find gas this hour. And if you can scan the QR code on your screen with your smartphone's camera, it will take you to our website where you can figure out which stations have fuel near you. Let's check in now with WCNC Charlotte's Tanya Mendes. She's been keeping tabs on the outcome here. Tanya, gas stations just can't seem to keep up with the overwhelming demand.
No, I've been driving around town all day, and gas stations will have it, and everybody will beeline for it, and then they'll be gone within a couple of hours. Right here at this Shell station on Carowinds Boulevard, they've had the bags on the pumps, and we've been watching these poor unfortunate souls pull up to this one pump that just doesn't have a bag on it. So they're thinking, yeah, we've got gas, but actually, no, there's no gas over here. Where there is gas, though, is across the street, and the line is crazy right now, backing all the way up onto Carowinds Boulevard, back to the light at Cabela's, and of course, this is right by the highway, so it's causing major backups here. You can see dozens of cars who are desperate for gas because this is the only place in the area that's got it.
Sorry is about all Sam's Mart can say.
This is very much difficult because we don't have a gas and people, they need gas.
The Pineville gas station had 4,000 gallons of gas Wednesday morning, enough for about 400 cars to fill up.
And there was a line and I was controlling. No, everything is gone.
Their 2-day supply sold out in just 4 hours.
Anything that you would tell people when people are coming in saying, when are you going to get gas? What do you tell them?
Hopefully very soon.
How soon? No one is really saying for sure. On a conference call Wednesday, leading experts in the fuel industry blamed delays in the supply chain, not a shortage, saying there's actually plenty of gas, but getting it here by land, rail, and sea takes longer than the pipeline. Meanwhile, panicked purchases are drying out pumps and pushing up prices.
People are in a panic, actually. that is not that much shortage, and people, they are bringing their cans and they are filling up.
Tanker trucks can't fill up fueling stations fast enough. Wednesday afternoon, there were more gas stations without gas than with, according to GasBuddy.com. 65% of gas stations across North Carolina don't have fuel. Customers trying to remain calm.
Every bit of it is safe for me to get back and forth to be able to go to work.
But conserving every gallon they can.
Actually, they don't have gas at that one. Yeah, they don't have it. Yeah, I know the bag's just not on it. Sorry, I've been doing this literally all afternoon because I'm watching people going up there thinking that there's gas and there isn't gas. And that's just the sad thing, is that so many people are just looking for it wherever they can. Hold on, though. Do not top off your tanks. Don't panic, because it looks like we're going to be getting some supply within the next couple of days. And the gas stations that we've been talking to do feel pretty good about it. They just don't want to see people who are hoarding and buying when they don't need to. That's the story here on Carowinds Boulevard. I'm Tanya Mendes, WCNC Charlotte.
Yeah, people would just chill out. Things will get better here in a couple of days. Tanya, thank you for your reporting.
Is bracing for a gas shortage tonight. Thanks for watching NBC2. I'm Peter Bush.
And I'm Kelly Burns. The problem here is twofold. One is panic. After the Colonial gas pipeline was hacked and shut down, it's impacting supplies to the East Coast. But this will not affect us in Florida unless people start panic buying gas, like they did after Hurricane Irma. Remember those lines? The second and more serious problem from our area is a national shortage of certified truck drivers.
Here's why that's an issue for us. Southwest Florida gets its gas from ships. They sail across the Gulf of Mexico from refineries, and then they land at Port Tampa or Port Manatee. The gas is then loaded up onto trucks and driven to our area. But if we don't have people to drive the trucks, the gas doesn't get delivered to our area.
To prepare for the worst, Southwest Florida's biggest city, Cape Coral, is filling up tankers like these to store an emergency supply of fuel. NBC2's Dave Elias talked to city leaders about their plan, finding out if we should be filling up our tanks as well.
Well, the threat of a fuel shortage has Cape Coral taking some serious steps to make sure that tankers like this are filled with gasoline. The city says that it wants to make sure all of its vehicles can be filled up at a moment's notice.
It's a big operation, and fuel is at the center of all the things that we do.
Hundreds of city-owned vehicles like these consuming tens of thousands of gallons of gas a month.
Public Works crews you can see filling up right now.
A Russian cyber attack forced the shutdown of the Colonial pipeline. Couple that with a tanker driver shortage.
Shortages in other areas could lead to a greater demand in that fuel.
The city is cutting back on its fuel use and keeping its storage tanks like these full to keep emergency vehicles on the road.
We'd like to be able to operate for a week or more on reserve fuel.
I heard about the gas shortage.
Traveling nurse Margie Wills, like many, filling her tank up just in case.
I'm a little concerned because I have to have gas to do my job.
Other drivers believe a gas shortage may be inevitable.
It's going to be a shortage because they think there's going to be a shortage.
But fuel experts warn drivers should not panic buy.
I don't think that that's going to cripple the nation. It's going to take them 4 or 5 days to get it back online, and we're all going to live happily ever after. No reason to panic.
Now, with the city going through 61,000 gallons of gasoline each month, think of that as 4 swimming pools filled with gas. The city also reminding folks, if you're going to be one of those who also start stocking up, make sure that you're using an approved container. In Cape Coral, Dave Elias, NBC2.
Been hearing from you. You've been reaching out about problems at several gas stations in the valley and pumps out of service. Now, the issue is at Chevron gas stations. Victoria Saha explains why there's such a pain at the pump.
When you're running low on gas, you want to try to fill up as soon as possible. But the problem is that several Chevron customers feel like they're wasting gas just trying to find gas. If you haven't noticed a pump out of service at the Chevron you frequent, you may come across one soon. It's an ongoing issue. Tyler Krusich with Chevron says they started noticing over the weekend.
We do have a very loyal customer base in the Las Vegas area for our Chevron and Texaco stations, and so we take this situation very seriously.
And their loyal customers like the fuel Chevron provides, which makes things harder when they come across a yellow tag that says out of service.
I work all day and it's like
there's already traffic because Vegas is busy, so it's like it takes time out of my day to have to go 5 blocks down to another Chevron. So it's just frustrating as a civilian out here that has to get gas and that actually likes Chevron.
Now, there could be a lot of reasons why there's a gas shortage here at Chevron. The company tells me one of the biggest reasons is because a lot of places have lifted their COVID-19 restrictions and drivers are getting back out on the roads.
And we're also seeing some challenges on the logistics side. A lack of ability to put product in pipelines.
With no end in sight, drivers want answers.
It's just that when you get there, you be ready to go. So you get there and there's no pumps.
But it's always like the closest and there's the most of them, but they always seem to be the most inconvenient ones.
No word on when this issue will be resolved, but Chevron tells me they're working hard to get the gas supply moving again. Victoria Saha, 8 News Now.
Victoria, thank you. Drivers are only experiencing the problem right now with Chevron. Now, Gas Buddy's also reporting the demand for gas has increased, which also, of course, plays a part in the cost for gas.
This is potentially the most substantial and damaging attack on U.S. critical infrastructure ever.
States of emergency declared in Georgia, Florida, Virginia, and North Carolina as pressure at the pump spreads up and down the East Coast.
We have sold 4,000 plus gallons within 3 hours. We're already out of unleaded regular.
We are still feeling that pain at the pump over the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack. This gas station right here just got a delivery overnight, and they're already running out. Only regular is left. Across the street, there is no gas at all. And then there's the price. AAA now says that the national average is more than $3 a gallon.
Everywhere I go, it's bags over the gas pumps.
I don't want to hoard up anything. I'm just trying to make sure I can get to my appointments.
The Secretary of Energy urging Americans to be patient.
Much as there was no cause for, say, hoarding toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic, there should be no cause for hoarding gasoline.
As the shutdown of the Colonial Pipeline enters its 6th day, fuel price monitor Gas Buddy reporting extreme outages in major cities overnight. 60% of stations in Norfolk depleted, 50% in Atlanta, and 35% in Charlotte. Even some airlines are starting to feel the effects. Americans saying it will have to make pit stops for fuel on some long-haul flights to Hawaii and Europe, and cancellations could be next.
That swarm of rockets fired from Gaza raining down on Israel. Israel's Iron Dome defense system intercepting many, those explosions lighting up the night sky.
About 3 a.m. here, and the sirens are out again on the balcony, and the rockets have been fired from just behind me.
Sirens sounding, residents scrambling for cover in central Israel, home to nearly half of the country's population. This home obliterated, but miraculously, its occupants survived in their bomb shelter. But many of those rockets making it through, this one blowing up a bus just south of Tel Aviv, bystanders racing towards that fire. In all, 6 killed and dozens wounded from rocket fire in the past 24 hours. The Israeli military saying about 1,000 rockets have been launched towards Israel from Gaza over the past 48 hours, the most in years. Hamas calling the rocket attack a reprisal for the flattening of this 13-story building in Gaza. The Israeli military saying it struck what it says are at least 500 Hamas and Islamic Jihad targets. Palestinian health officials reporting 43 people killed, at least 10 of them children, including this 11-year-old whose body was carried through the streets to his funeral. And violence on another front. Fiery clashes in several mixed Arab-Jewish towns inside Israel proper. Over 200 protesters wounded in street battles there with Israeli police.
The cyber threat to our energy infrastructure, the largest petroleum pipeline between Texas and New York, is out of commission this morning following a cyber attack. Joining me right now is the head of petroleum analysis at Gas Buddy, Patrick DeHaan. Patrick, thanks very much for being here. Your reaction to what's taken place. We still do not know when this pipeline will be back online. Your reaction to its impact.
Good morning, Maria. Ouch. You know, this is something that we've seen affect more and more businesses in the last couple of years, even just the last year or two. And this one's particularly painful. Obviously now a major pipeline that serves millions of motorists in the East Coast is now down. And we've have virtually no information on any restoration. Obviously, we're going into day 4 now, this starting late Friday. We're quickly starting to rub up against kind of the safety net of a few days of gasoline supply. And really not much improvement, not much news. So when will we see the pipeline return to operation? I think that's really the critical question right now that's yet to be answered.
Where are you seeing the highest prices right now across the country?
Well, a lot of that's still on the West Coast. Thankfully, we haven't seen much impact yet on price from the Colonial Pipeline outage, but I would expect to see some issues with supply in the days ahead. But of course, California, opposite coast, price is high because of course, keep in mind, high taxes and a carbon management program.
Jackie, jump in. Jackie, you've covered energy and oil for so long. Give us your take.
Well, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, Patrick, this is an isolated incident on the Colonial Pipeline, may not have a huge impact on prices, certainly not long term. But how vulnerable is the grid? Because that's something that we've been talking about for a really long time. All of a sudden, if you have a coordinated attack on a couple of pipelines all at once, you can do a lot more damage.
Yeah, exactly that. I would think that they really hit it hard here because the Colonial Pipeline really is a major artery, one of the few major arteries through this area. You look at other areas of the country, in many cases, east of the Rockies, there's a lot of redundancy, a lot of options. Here with the Colonial Pipeline, there's only one real option, and that's either waterborne barges or the Plantation Pipeline at just a fraction of the size of the Colonial Pipeline. So if anything, we saw how vulnerable the region is to the Colonial Pipeline outage in 2016. Of course, that's when one of the lines sprung a leak. And then later that year, when a fire erupted in the pipeline, we've become kind of accustomed to seeing some issues here. But the question is, what is going to be done moving forward? A lot of government simulations have been run on cybersecurity attacks on critical infrastructure just like this. I sat through one in 2018. But reliving it in the real world is certainly completely different.
Yeah, I mean, this attack is being blamed on ransom-seeking dark web criminal enterprises, but Washington is not excluding that a state actor is involved, which is scary. Most companies are increasing their investment in cybersecurity, that's for sure. But does this raise the risk of key infrastructure being targeted going forward as summer is fast approaching, driving set to increase? What kind of a spike in gasoline prices would you expect?
Well, it all really contingent on how long this pipeline remains out. I think for most of the country, there's not going to be any real significant pricing impact. I think in the Southeast, really it depends, and we could see an exponential increase starting in the next few days. Right now, RBOB's only up a few cents a gallon. Keep in mind, that's nationally. We could see more localized responses. Prices could jump 10 to 15 cents in the next day or two, and even beyond that, if this pipeline doesn't return to service, there's a lot of quietness on the part of the administration, on the part of Colonial Pipeline, that makes this even potentially more worrisome. Potentially, maybe they don't want to say anything, exposing the holes in security right now. So, we're really waiting for something, a development, to get any sort of idea on either what happened or how quickly the restoration time will be. There's a lot of parties involved, but again, virtually no news or updates on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary part. We don't know how long this outage will go and whether or not it will be an extended outage. We'll keep watching, Patrick. Great to get your insights, and we'll check back as we know more.
Thanks
very
Maria.
much. Patrick DeHaan joining us there. All right, we'll see you soon.
A lot of frantic searching for gas in D.C. today, and this is what a lot of people are finding. Pumps with no gas.
Out of gas.
As some gas stations slowly start to return to normal, drivers in D.C. are still struggling, going gas station to gas station only to see bags on the handle and signs on the pumps.
I've been trying to look for gas. I work in Leesburg, so it happened, right before the weekend, which was okay, but now I'm like, how am I going to get to work?
Ebony has spent the last few days looking, and if she can't get her tank filled,
I might have to call off. nothing I can do. I don't want to get stuck in Leesburg. There's no gas there either.
Colonial Pipeline says it's resumed normal operations. The process of getting it out to all the stations may still take a few days. Gas Buddy reports Virginia and Maryland are slowly seeing more gas stations turn the pump back on, as D.C. gradually sees more stations run out.
Like an hour and 30 minutes.
That's how long Theodore spent looking, as desperation sits in for drivers.
My tank is empty, and I tried to put some gas, and now I'm going like to 5 different gas stations, and there is no gas.
A few miles down the road, a glimmer of liquid gold in the form of a fuel truck, but an employee says he's unsure how long it will last, as drivers were lined up waiting for the pumps to turn on.
They have the small gas delivery, so we don't know. So we'll see it until tomorrow. Might be tomorrow is another day. We finish, might be you have to wait another 3-4 days again.
A fuel expert says gas stations should be back to normal this week if people stop panic buying fuel, but a full recovery could take a few weeks. In D.C., Colby Satterfield, WUSA 9.
At a race against time after a cyber attack on one of the nation's largest fuel suppliers for the East Coast. The ransomware attack caused Georgia-based Colonial Pipeline to shut down. Pipeline is now scrambling to get services returned to normal before gas prices rise.
So how does all of this impact us here in the Palmetto State? The pipeline is responsible for transporting gasoline and other fuel through 10 states between Texas and New Jersey, which of course includes South Carolina. It delivers roughly 45% of the fuel consumed on the East Coast. That's everything from gasoline to heating oil and jet fuel. If the shutdown continues, there are concerns that gas prices and supplies could be impacted statewide. News 19's Kaylin Hagwood joins us now live with more on that part of the story. Kaylin.
Well, Darcy, supply is certainly a concern, especially with the Colonial Pipeline down after a truck driver shortage made worse due to the pandemic had already been affecting some gas delivery times. Now, prices could also begin to be affected as well, as some petroleum analysts estimate it could increase by 5 to 15 cents over the next week due to the pipeline issue.
So it's not monumental. It's not a massive spike, but we probably will see prices drift higher. It could be a much bigger increase if, like I said, if consumers flock to the pump and drain the system and there's no gasoline left, then the price increases may become more dramatic, potentially 10 to 25 cents a gallon. So it's really a little early to call, simply because there's still gasoline out there. But at the onset, this is going to be a slight impact on price, but more so an impact on supply.
Well, some gas stations like here at the Corner Pantry in Sumter have posted signs limiting the amount of gas that people can buy. The biggest thing that analysts say that you should do at home, though, is to not hoard gas and instead conserve so that it doesn't create a bigger challenge bouncing back once the system is back online. Reporting live here in Sumter, I'm Kaylin Hagwood. JR?
All right, Kaylin, thank you so much.
There is no gasoline shortage here in Colorado because of that cyber attack on a major pipeline back east, but the experts say that could change if people here start hoarding. We do know that gas stations are running out of fuel in some of the southern and eastern states, and those that have some left are seeing very long lines. Things are getting so tense, a fight broke out between a man and a woman in North Carolina. 70% of the stations in that state are out of gas. Our Tori Mason checking on the issue tonight. And Tori, the pipeline problem has no impact here in Colorado. But boy, if we start panic buying, that could be a problem.
Reminds me a lot of the toilet paper situation last year, Jim, but not being able to get gas is a pretty scary thought because so many of us are dependent on our cars for everything. And that shortage out in the east and the southern part of the United States is only being made worse by panic buying.
Today, I'm just filling up my gas tank as I would normally do.
Deja's trip to the pump was uneventful compared to fueling up out east. Scenes like this, hundreds of miles away, have locals wondering if they should top off too.
I am worried that it's going to impact us here.
It's hard to ignore when the Product Safety Commission found this warning necessary to tweet. AAA Colorado says we don't need to panic.
Our flow of both refined oil into Colorado and processed refined gasoline is normal. This fear stems from a very real feeling of I have things I need to do and I need gas to do them.
With summer approaching, local gas prices were above $3 before the pipeline attack.
I'm used to paying $3.20 at most.
Recent price hikes aren't because we're running out.
Gas station owners are seeing what's going on. They're like, oh, I can jack up the prices 10 cents. I know this stuff really well, and I saw those images, and I was like, maybe I should go buy some gas. It's just human nature.
He says there's no need to cancel those road trips. We're nowhere close to fighting over fuel.
From the outside looking in, it's a bit ridiculous. When there's a shortage, we want to get our hands on as much as we can.
All right, so I don't know if this is just a weird coincidence, but the gas station behind me here is having some trouble with the pumps, and the other gas station just a few miles down Broadway was closed unusually early. So I'm going to go in and see what's going on here. But otherwise, we didn't see a lot of issues at gas stations today. Now, a few hours ago, the Colonial Pipeline initiated a restart of its operations. We're live in Denver. Tori Mason covering Colorado First.
All right. Now we have the fallout of that massive cyber attack of a critical fuel pipeline. Gas shortages now in multiple states. The governor of North Carolina declaring a state of emergency as officials urge drivers not to panic buy. Rebecca Jarvis has the latest for us. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning to you, Robin. And as you say, the Colonial Pipeline is critical to the nation's gas supply. 5,500 miles of pipeline running from Texas all the way up to New Jersey. You can see the aerial shots live in Georgia, where their headquarters are right now. And what we've seen in just the last 24 hours is gas prices continuing to rise. Now $2.99 a gallon is the national average. And by tomorrow, you could see $3 gas.
This morning, the cyber attack on the nation's largest fuel pipeline now leading to gas shortages as multiple states face dwindling supply.
My gas tank is basically empty, and all the gas pumps has out of service.
The White House says it's now monitoring supply shortages in parts of the Southeast and is evaluating every action the administration can take to mitigate the impact as much as possible. Overnight, North Carolina declaring a state of emergency as pumps run dry and officials urge drivers not to panic buy.
We are completely out of diesel and gas.
But already, long lines and low fuel gauges.
Hopefully we get more soon because we're about out.
Gas station chain Racetrack with more than 500 stations across the Southeast already seeing temporary shortages and warning of potential issues from Alabama to Louisiana, Tennessee, and Georgia. As Colonial Pipeline aims to restore services by the end of the week, analysts tell ABC News the longer it takes, the deeper the impact. The impact now also hitting the skies. Certain long-haul American Airlines flights will make stops to refuel. Announcing trips from Charlotte to London and Hawaii will have to divert to areas with more supply.
When you go beyond 5 days out to about a week and a half, you start running into actual physical losses. After 10 days of an outage, it would then become very challenging.
And while the impact from these problems are expected to be temporary, you should very likely see prices at gas stations like this one behind me continuing to rise throughout the coming weeks because we are entering the prime driving season. And Michael, we've also reopened. The entire country is now reopening. That is causing much bigger spikes in demand than we saw last year. Last year at this time, prices were below $2. Michael?
Well, difference a year can make. Rebecca, thank you so much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
The 10 o'clock news starts right now with a breaking news alert.
And that breaking news is at the gas pump. A state of emergency declared in both Florida and Georgia late today. From Tallahassee to Georgia to Raleigh, Americans are rushing to fill up after the hacking of a major pipeline. And this photo, taken by News4JAX reporter Corley Peel, was just sent into the newsroom from Durbin Creek, the Gate gas station there, with the pumps roped off just a few minutes ago. The gas station confirmed to Corley they blocked off the pumps due to the shortage and that they are out of gas. We called and they just told us the supply is expected in a few hours. Well, meantime, you may have noticed the gas prices are going up, and some worry the increases will continue.
As we just showed you at Durbin Park, gas is out at some stations in our area. Not many, though, and those out of gas say that they will get shipments soon. News4JAX anchor Janice Harris joining us now. And Janice, what is advice coming in from state officials on this?
Ken and Mary, a lot of advice tonight. Governor DeSantis issued a state of emergency just a couple of hours ago. Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp issued a state of emergency earlier today. It's in reaction, as you mentioned, to the possible gasoline shortage for Florida and Georgia. Meanwhile, officials are telling drivers to not panic. Drivers are being told to not panic despite forecasts for gasoline shortages. But Florida's governor says he's concerned.
My fear is you have these gas shortages. It's going to cause a lot of problems for people, just the convenience of life, but also for our economy.
This just days after a cyber attack shut down the Colonial Pipeline, a major source of gasoline. The private company has not released details on the hack. Now some pumps are empty in the Florida Panhandle. This is reaction to the gasoline shortage in Tallahassee. DeSantis says the state is relaxing restrictions in terms of the weight in order to get more fuel trucks to the parts of Florida that need more fuel. But he also wants the federal government to help. Florida's agriculture commissioner says her office is closely watching the situation and tells drivers,
don't panic to buy gas.
So who's impacted? Though some regions have long lines, so far none in Jacksonville. The River City is not dependent on the hacked fuel line. Parts of Northwest Florida and South Georgia rely on gas trucked from a branch of the affected pipeline. Logistics is critical to keep drivers on the roads. Ned Bowman with the Florida Petroleum Marketing Association.
The supplies are a little bit tight because the pipeline is shut down in Bainbridge. Bainbridge feeds part of North Florida, South Georgia. So what we've been able to do is use Jacksonville and pull fuel out of Jacksonville across the Panhandle.
Though you may be tempted to go out, get the gasoline, officials say do not do it unless you actually need the gasoline. Otherwise, panic buying could make the whole situation worse. If you believe a gas station is price gouging, you can report them immediately at the number you see on the bottom of your screen. You can also find that number in this story on our website, news4jax.com. Mary?
While the pipeline is functioning once again, it's going to take a while to make up for that nearly week's worth of missed fuel deliveries, which could cause more panic buying.
Well, we've all heard what not to do. Don't rush to the gas station and don't fuel the fear on social media. But tonight, News Channel 5's Jason Lamb is looking into things you can do to help the situation over the next couple of days in this in-depth report.
Amid concerns of fuel shortages in Tennessee, it's important to remember the vast majority of gas stations in the state are reporting they do have gas.
There are some things that we can do as drivers and in our daily life to help out the situation.
AAA of Tennessee says if you're concerned about a shortage, instead of rushing to the gas station to get more gas, consider what you've likely already learned how to do during the pandemic. Work from home.
In cases like this, where we are in a situation where we might have, in the short term, a limited availability of gasoline, that's one thing that we can fall back on because those changes have been put in place for many of us.
And they say now is a good time to start putting thought into how many trips you take from home each day. Don't eliminate them entirely, but group them together.
If you are planning on doing multiple things throughout the day, go ahead and try to combine trips.
And for families with multiple cars, be mindful of which one you're driving if you do have to go to work or run errands. Choose the most fuel-efficient one.
Of course, depending on what you're doing, that may not require a gas guzzler to drive around. So you do have options. Just choose them wisely in your in your day-to-day activities.
Colonial says it may still be several days before the fuel supply chain returns to normal. So AAA says it's best to focus on these steps you can take now rather than fueling fear online. Jason Lamb, News Channel 5.
Jason, thanks. And just like we've seen panic gas buying, we're hearing reports of some price gouging. If you see exceptionally high prices at the pump, report the issue to the state through the Department of Commerce and Insurance.
Colonial Pipeline halted gas shipments to much of the southeast and the east coast. News of the pipeline cyber attack is leading to runs on gasoline here on the Gulf Coast. This was the scene earlier this evening in Fairhope as people lined up at the gas pumps. In Northwest Florida, it's not the pipeline ransomware attack, but something else as people driving around looking for fuel. Cody Long is live tonight in Pensacola, and Cody, you were one of them.
Yeah, Dana, it was a bit frustrating, but I did get some help from a coworker. Thanks, Jason, for that. He brought me a full gas can, but all of the gas stations I passed by today, I saw the same thing. It was either long lines or they were already out of gasoline.
It's been crazy.
It's what we're used to seeing when a hurricane is in the forecast. Long lines at the gas station.
This is worse than a hurricane.
Danielle Charles and her daughter, Soraya Smith, spent a lot of time in the car together.
I've been so bored and I was hangry all the time.
It was over an hour of searching before they got to fill up.
And there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of gas stations, 4 gas stations we passed by, and they're all crowded up with cars.
Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Freed says there are several factors leading to the gas shortage. She says the main reason in Pensacola is because a company servicing the area is unable to meet EPA standards under the Clean Air Act. The annual deadline was May 1st.
As one of the state agencies regulating gas stations, know that we are in close contact with federal and state agencies and the petroleum industry on this situation.
Other factors affecting the fuel shortage are the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack and a lack of truck drivers.
Don't panic to buy gas. Don't hoard gas. And don't form long lines at gas stations like behind me. Fuel is continuing to move around our state.
And it's unclear how long this shortage will last. We'll keep you updated on what we see along the Gulf Coast. Reporting live in Pensacola, I'm Cody Long, WKRG.
First breaking at 5, and it's a state of emergency in Georgia. About 60% of gas stations across the metro empty. The shortage prompting panic at the pumps no matter where you live. Chopper 46 flying over a crowded gas station right now in Cobb County. This is the Costco near Cumberland Mall. No different than any other gas station that you are visiting today. Lines extending far beyond the pump.
And it's not just Georgia running on E either. Hundreds of gas stations around the country are out of fuel. Florida, Virginia, North Carolina also declaring states of emergency today. It has been 6 days since that cyber attack shut down the Colonial gas pipeline.
And tonight we are helping you navigate through this crisis. Our reporters are scattered across the metro working to find you the gas stations that are still stocked up.
CBS 46's Tori Cooper is live in Cobb County tonight. And Tori, tempers are really starting to flare. People getting impatient here.
Definitely, Tracy. The drivers we spoke to say that everywhere they turn, there's these long lines. I want to give you a better look at what some of the stuff we're seeing at many of these QT gas stations. You can see this line is actually stretching out towards the street now. Many of the drivers say that they're becoming very impatient. Obviously, some tensions have been arising throughout the day and obviously the week. And we had a chance to sit down with AAA, who says that this is not going to change as of yet, and this has become way more problematic than they ever imagined.
For dinner tonight. There's 87 in my gas.
Drivers are scrambling to find a pump with fuel in it after a cyber attack hit the Colonial Pipeline Friday, impacting the gas supply to 45% of the East Coast.
My car only take 93. You feel me? I don't know what's going on at this point. I'm fed up.
Video shows some drivers are now even fighting over fuel or running out of gas altogether.
That'll get you to the pump.
As tensions climb and long lines at the pump, prices are also continuing to spike.
How high they go is really dependent
on how long this crisis lasts.
New data from AAA shows an overnight spike of 8 cents and a 24-cent spike just since last Wednesday.
We predicted prices would increase in the southeast area anywhere from 3 to 7 cents. We've seen much bigger increases.
According to the White House, problems could subside by the end of the week now that the Colonial Pipeline officials say they feel confident normal operations will be possible by then.
Colonial has announced that they're working toward full restoration by the end of this week, but we are not taking any chances. We are doing everything that we can in the interim to make it easier to move fuel to the places that need it.
The EPA also granted Governor Brian Kemp's request today to temporarily use winter gas to help with supply and lower costs. Truck drivers who depend on diesel in their tanks to put food on the table say the state needs to roll out winter fuel as soon as possible to alleviate the strain on drivers now.
They should definitely do that soon. If it's going to bring down the cost of fuel, I'm with it. Please get that done as fast as possible.
And then go to him. Now, as of right now, we do want to let you know that you can get gas here at the QT in Cobb County off of Lower Roswell Road. Right now, unleaded gas is at $2.89. We just had a chance to speak to this driver right here who says this is the second gas station you've been to?
The third or fourth or the fifth. It's a lot. We don't know what's going on, man. I'm finna fill up right now.
All right, well, you made it. You lucked out. Hopefully you weren't on E. And fill up. The light was on. The light was on. You heard it. So if you need to get gas, now is a good time. They have some gas here in Cobb County. Reporting live, I'm Tori Cooper for CBS 46 News.
Tori, thank you.
Well, this Clinton gas station, the grab and go, had fuel to start the morning, but that's not the case anymore. Now they're just down to premium and diesel, no unleaded. Some government agencies have fuel on hand, others relying on set-asides to try and make it through the crisis. The Clinton School District buses are rolling, and operators say they have suppliers who deliver it directly to their bus barn.
We're in daily contact with suppliers to make sure that if we ever get near low, that they come and fill us up, but we never get near low.
Clinton and other government agencies are hoping to ride out this fuel demand that has caused many gas stations to go dry. At the grab and go on Spring Ridge Road, the regular unleaded had run out, but operators had some set aside.
I have 400 gallons for our first responders, emergency fire trucks, and police officers because they need their gas too. So that I have sanctioned off for them, and I'm just holding it for them.
City mayors in the metro say they are being patient and believing that supply will return soon as police, fire, and public works continue hitting the roads and conducting business as usual.
We have a number of public works employees that are in need of gasoline in order to execute the services that our citizens depend on.
You might have some shortages somewhere, but it's due to, I think, of a lack of society generally doesn't fill up until you get down below a quarter tank of gas, and then everybody runs and goes, I got to fill up. Suppliers are delivering more gasoline. This Kroger in Byram receiving this shipment from Kansas with regular and premium fuel. The gas deliveries have been intermittent. This store is expecting a shipment sometime late tonight. Normally they sell about 3,500 gallons a day. They sold that much here just this morning. Live in Clinton, Scott Simmons, 16 WAPT News.
Gas stations across the East Coast running out of fuel as drivers fill up their tanks after a cyber attack shut down the Colonial Pipeline. We saw the lines today here. This is over at Costco in Fairfax County. What a sight.
Yeah, but the experts say the panic buying, that's not the answer. It could actually threaten the supply chain for weeks to come.
It will take a few days to be up and running. It's not that we have a gasoline shortage. It's that we have this supply crunch and that things will be back to normal soon, and that we're asking people not to hoard.
Well, people aren't listening to that. Officials say the pipeline could be operational by the end of the week, but if people are hoarding, there will be effects for much longer than that. We have team coverage on this story for you tonight.
Fox 5's Lauren DeMarco is looking into what this could mean for your summer vacation. But first, we do want to go to our Lindsay Watts, who is live in Gainesville, Virginia, with the very latest on what you need to know for the days ahead. Lindsay.
Angie, busy gas stations here in Prince William County today. Earlier, this Exxon off of Lee Highway was out of regular and Tonight, there is no fuel here, and we have been trying to let everybody know who's still pulling in. The owner here says the reason behind that, all the people who showed up today with their gas cans. In the last 24 hours, fear over gas shortages and price surges have people lining up. Some stations are tapped out tonight here in Virginia and other states along the path of the nation's largest fuel pipeline. I was just watching somebody over my shoulder with a gas can. Is that necessary?
It's not necessary, but it's happening. I mean, people are panicking right now.
Energy market analyst Phil Flynn says the gas shortages are being fueled by this rush on the pumps. It follows the Colonial Pipeline shutdown on Friday. Hackers attacked the computer systems, demanding a ransom.
This attack on U.S. energy infrastructure was a big deal, right? It was an attack on the economy. It was an attack on the consumer. But, you know, from a real supply of gasoline situation, we really had enough supply to get through a couple of days. But because people are panicking, they're filling up their gas tank, that's causing some of these shortages.
It may be easier said than done, but he says the biggest thing to remember right now, don't panic. If you can avoid driving the next few days, do that. Then you don't have to come and fill up. You can avoid these crowds. And if you do live somewhere where prices are surging, he says these numbers are going to be coming back down when the pipeline fully reopens. But passing by the throngs of people getting gas,
because I figure if all the gas is going like that, I better fill my car up too.
Many figure might as well.
I saw it on the news and I said, you know, let me go out and fill up.
There was like a mile and a half of cars.
Kenny Talbot was driving out past Fredericksburg and says lines were even worse out there.
I could clearly see a fight going on between someone who had pulled in from one direction and then the 70 cars that were waiting from the other direction. It's crazy.
Virginia is one of the states most impacted by shortages. According to data from Gas Buddies tonight, over 8% of gas stations statewide are like this one, out of fuel. Compare that, though, to some gas stations in North Carolina. Some parts of that state are seeing over 50% of gas stations without fuel tonight. Back to you.
Yeah, some of these outages are huge, Lindsay, and we want to show you what's going on in other parts. Our area isn't the only one being impacted by all this. As we mentioned, the Colonial Pipeline sends fuel all along the East Coast. So these were the lines that we saw today at gas stations, as Lindsay mentioned, North Carolina, where they saw a ton of outages, Georgia, Alabama, as well as Florida. Gas stations there have also been running dry, and prices are spiking with this high demand.
And if you have travel plans coming up, yes, this can affect you as well. Laura DeMarco's live at Reagan National tonight to explain how travel could be affected both on the road, but also, Lauren, in the sky.
The cyber attack coming just when air travel was beginning to pick back up following the pandemic. Now, experts say as long as the Colonial Pipeline is back up and running in the next few days, airfare should not be affected. Different story, though, when we talk about taking a road trip for Memorial Day weekend. The TSA saw its busiest day since the start of the pandemic this Sunday, more than 1.7 million air travelers. With demand up following the vaccine rollout, travel expert Troy Petenbrink predicts airfare will begin to rise, but fingers crossed, the pipeline cyber attack should not lead to a spike in fees because airlines and the cruise industry have fuel pricing controls that protect them in the short term.
Now, if this were to last a longer time, yeah, we'd probably see an uptick in prices. So let's keep our fingers crossed that that's not the case.
American Airlines has said it's adding stops on some longer flights to areas where fuel supplies are not affected. But a spokesperson says Reagan National Airport is on a separate pipeline and Dulles International Airport has several days worth of fuel on site. Heading out on a Memorial Day road trip, that's where you will feel the biggest impact. Several stations in the district had long lines this evening, others completely sold out of gas.
I'm definitely not going to go home now until I find some gas.
Petenbrink says the pipeline issue has created a perfect storm because it comes on top of increased summer travel demand and a pandemic-prompted shortage of truck drivers who supply fuel to the stations.
Traditionally, a lot of the truck drivers were older. Many of them use this as an opportunity to retire. Unfortunately, COVID robbed us of a lot of folks. And on top of that, people are taking their time in terms of just going back to work.
He recommends using AAA to get an estimate of your gas costs ahead of traveling and apps like Gas Buddy or Get Upside.
The beauty of that is you don't want to be spending your time hunting around for the cheap gas in a destination you don't actually know. The other thing that you want to think about is making sure your car's well maintained before you head out on that road trip. You're going to get better fuel efficiency that way. Make sure the tire pressure is good and things like that.
You also may want to get an estimate on any of those rideshare apps before booking your trip, because they've already seen higher prices due to less drivers out on the road working during the pandemic, and a spike in gas prices not going to help. Back to you.
I think it's going to be okay. I think everyone's panicking, but we'll see.
You're not worried at all?
We'll see in a few days if this continues with Colonial, whether or not it becomes more of an issue. But right now, I think it's manageable.
And we begin at 6 with the major fears of a gas shortage. This is a live look at a significant line for fuel in McLean, Virginia. This week alone, the national price of gas has shot up 7 cents. The average overall is almost $3 a gallon. That's the highest we've seen in almost 6 years. So you can see a lot of panic and a lot of people for getting gas and making sure they have some in their car, Angie.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that everybody can relate to. Everybody's talking about it. And today, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam coming out declaring a state of emergency in Virginia to prepare for any potential supply shortages. We want to get right to Sharon Roget, who's in the newsroom with the very latest on this. Sharon.
Yeah, gas stations along the East Coast are being slammed by panic buying and long lines amid the shutdown of the biggest oil pipeline in the U.S. I mean, take a look at these lines seen at gas stations today in North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, just packed. Going for miles there, that line. This comes after the Colonial Pipeline was hit by a ransomware attack, shut down as a precaution. That pipeline provides nearly half of the fuel supply used on the country's East Coast. However, AAA says there is no need to rush and fill up your tank. They say gas stations are running out of fuel because of the panic buying, not because the pipeline shut down. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm says that they expect a decision by close of business Wednesday on when the Colonial Pipeline will be fully restarted, and until then it's the Southeast that will feel the effects the most.
It will take a few days to be up and running. It's not that we have a gasoline shortage, it's that we have this supply crunch, and that things will be back to normal soon, and that we're asking people not to hoard.
Meanwhile, prices at the pump have increased recently, but experts say those prices have already been increasing since March as demand grew. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam declared a state of emergency this afternoon due to the pipeline closure. It's a move that allows him to at least temporarily suspend some fuel regulations in a bid to ensure adequate supply should it be necessary. But again, a lot of this is panic buying, people going to the gas station, filling up, thinking gas is going to run out. But everyone is saying, hey, have patience, don't worry. They're trying to get a handle on it.
Yeah, we've already seen outages of gas reported in several states. We don't want it to happen around here. Sharon, thank you for the update.
Well, we continue to follow the gasoline shortage in the Southeast due to a cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline. Gasoline stations all over the area now seem to be running out of fuel.
Yeah, right now we're joined by oil analyst and expert Patrick Dehan, who is also known as the Gas Buddy. We know him on Twitter as the Gas Buddy.
Well, Gas Buddy, we've been following your Twitter feed today, and you recently reported on the percentage of gasoline stations without gas, breaking it down by the state. Now, about 2 hours ago, you had Virginia at 44% and North Carolina at about 65%. What's the latest with that?
Well, it looks like North Carolina's up a little bit to 68%. Virginia's almost at 50%, just under that at 49%. So the numbers are going up, but it feels like they're going up a little slower than what we saw earlier today and yesterday.
So, Patrick, with so many stations running out of gas so quickly, what amount of this is from the cyber attack itself, and what amount is from just panic buying?
Well, looking at the backdrop of this, a lot of the areas in the Southeast where we're seeing 60 to 70% of fuel stations out, they actually still have gasoline at the rack where tanker trucks fill up. So a lot of this was probably made worse by the intense demand. In fact, Gas Buddy looked at demand in 5 states in the affected region, the Carolinas, Georgia, Virginia, and Florida, and found that on Monday it was up 40% compared to the prior Monday. That's a lot of hoarding and panic buying, and that's probably making the situation far worse. Keep in mind that tanker truck drivers are hard to come by. There was a report about 2 weeks ago to expect this to be a problem, And now, of course, you have higher demand and less truck drivers. So that's really culminated in some of the higher outage numbers we've seen.
Yeah, we're seeing that all over. Now, there have been reports, though, I'm very concerned about this, reports of price gouging during this so-called shortage. But even when the shortage is over, will there be long-term price impacts from this?
Well, primarily not. This is not what you would call a pricing event. That is, prices would go up slightly, but not significantly. Typically, those pricing events where you think prices might go up 50 cents to $1 are more so about refineries that stop production. We had one earlier this year briefly, the Texas cold weather, you may remember. This, of course, being a pipeline, is not going to have a long-term effect on prices. Just some localized increases of maybe 10 to 20 cents. That should unwind in the weeks ahead.
I have one more question before you have to go. What about this distribution issue keeps you up at night?
The fact that so much of it is just completely uncontrolled right now. Stations could send as many tanker trucks. Typically, one of those tanker trucks you see refueling a station can last 3 to 5 days. Right now, it's more like 3 to 5 hours.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I tell you, there are going to be many questions in the days ahead. You don't have any predictions on how long this is going to last?
I think it would probably be a couple weeks until we see remarkable improvement. It may be a headache for another week or two to find gas. You may want to keep that Gas Buddy app handy, but I'd say that by perhaps Memorial Day, it would be less of a headache. That is, you're not going to have to shop around as often or as much to find a station with fuel.
Yeah, let's hope so, because a lot of folks are planning their vacations. They're going on vacation for Memorial Day and beyond, so let's hope it does mitigate before then.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
With summer getting a little closer, Middle Tennesseans are planning on hitting the road, but experts say there's a possibility there could be a gas shortage. News 4's Danielle Jackson explains the reason for that.
Matt Kraft is one of the many Nashville drivers who rely on fuel to get them from point A to point B.
I work all across town, so for me to get to job sites, a fuel shortage would not be a good thing, especially when costs of fuel will go up for that.
Recently, experts say they're foreseeing a gas shortage nationwide. That's because there's not enough truck drivers to supply the fuel.
It's a problem when we don't have enough drivers, and especially with how much fuel we go through.
Industry groups believe some drivers looked for other jobs since the demand for gas was low during the pandemic. But now AAA says the demand for gas is creeping back up.
It does seem like in the last several weeks, whether it is the rollout of the vaccines or whether the weather is improving across the nation, we do know that demand is as high as it was back in 2019.
I have read that there is going to be a shortage, or they're predicting a shortage of tanker drivers in the petroleum field.
Truck driver David Barnett says the potential shortage could and will impact consumers.
I would expect a little bit of a fuel rate increase, along with maybe some markets are going to run short, at their fuel pumps.
I'm Danielle Jackson, News 4 Nashville.
A Fox 35 News alert, the pipeline that was shut down after a cyber attack has been restarted. Deliveries will resume soon, but people have been rushing to fill up since the shutdown. Some local stations are running out, but the problem is much worse in other places across the Southeast.
The difference? We do not depend on that pipeline. It runs from Texas up to New Jersey, feeding about a dozen states along the way. Here in Florida, only panhandle cities like Tallahassee and Panama City get that oil via truck. Central Florida is fueled from Gulf Coast and Atlantic oil that is piped in from both coasts. So experts say what is happening here in Florida is panic buying. Fox 35's Jessica Albert kicks off our live team coverage right now. And Jessica, there has been a big development at your location since your live shot at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah, Luann, if you were with us at 5, this gas station was very busy, but in the last 30 minutes, you can see that's changed because they've run out of gas here. People you see pulling in now are having to turn around because they've got all the pumps covered here with plastic bags here. You can see they've actually stopped the pumps. Now, AAA did tell us today that they believe that this is happening because of panic buying, and we don't need to be panic buying in Florida.
When people race out to the pump and they top off their tanks and they fill up extra cans, all that does
is create a supply problem. It then makes it more challenging for the truck drivers to transport the gasoline over to every single gas station that has since run out of gasoline.
And we did talk to another expert today who says that he believes that this increased demand for gasoline will end within the next week. He says in the next 5 days or so. Reporting live in Claremont, Jessica Albert, Fox 35 News.
Fox 35's Vicki Carr continues our team coverage. Vicki, it's been hit or miss everywhere you've gone this evening, right?
Yeah, David, and I'm at a gas station in New Smyrna Beach. You can see this one is completely out of gas, and there's a lot of people that have been kind of driving in and out. But I did call them, and they said that they were expecting a shipment between 2 and 4, but as you can see, that clearly didn't happen. Fox 35 hit many gas stations in Volusia County, most of them running business as usual, but some, like this one in Ormond Beach, with limited supply.
We got gas a little bit to run our lawnmowers and stuff and our small gas engines.
People like Steve Smith stocking up, though he had to pay up a bit more.
They're out of regular gasoline, so you have to buy the premium, so sometimes you have to pay a little more.
This one off US 1 had signs letting customers know they were out. And this dad, just on a regular gas run, noticed the sudden increase in demand.
I mean, my kids got to, eat and got to get places. And I know there's only like 2 weeks left of school, but we still got to get the kids back and forth.
Both hope the situation gets figured out soon.
We can get through it, and we just hope that we get this straightened out with whatever it is. And
I hope we can, get it straightened out somehow.
And I've been using the Gas Buddy app to track supply, and within the last hour, I did notice a few more gas stations pop up with limited supply. I'm live tonight in New Smyrna Beach. Vicki Carr, Fox 35 News.
Vicki, you are exactly right. The Marathon gas station in Altamont Springs on 436 right near I-4 is out of gas as well tonight. We called about an hour ago to see if their pumps were back on because they ran out last night and they're still out of gas. They tell us they're not expecting another gas shipment until Friday or Saturday at the earliest.
Big stations or small, sales are up everywhere. In Claremont, at a Shell station off of Highway 50, they're seeing a lot of people come in to fill up. Now, believe it or not, their suppliers can keep up with that demand.
A lot of purchases on gas, a lot. So gas is going faster now. We get our supply nightly, so we're pretty secure with our gas here.
The store says the extra sales are helping in the bottom line. We checked with a few other small gas stations in Claremont and West Orlando. They're all feeling good about what they're hearing from their suppliers.
Our crews have been checking with gas stations county by county all day long. Many tanker trucks fill up at a terminal in Cape Canaveral. It stores millions of gallons of gas at a time. The manager there tells us it's well stocked.
It's going to be weeks before we would have to even worry about a resupply. Right now, we have about 37 million gallons of gasoline, more than 4,000 trucks can load. We have similar quantities of jet fuel, similar quantities of diesel.
This one terminal stores up to 3 million gallons.
Well, gas stations are one of two things. They either have long lines like this one in West Charlotte, or they're completely empty because they've run out of fuel. Now, this is exactly what industry experts warned us about, saying panic buying would cause premature shortages.
Filling up at the pump.
This is a gas hog, so filling up.
A headache for thousands of drivers across the Carolinas.
It's been pretty crazy. This is my third gas station, and we finally found one.
Chloe Hadley spent $100 for premium at Quick Trip in South Carolina.
Oh my gosh, no.
The station running out of regular by 11 o'clock this morning.
I mean, I've coasted in here on zero. I'm lucky, I guess I got what I got.
While some stations saw lines of commuters filling up tanks and containers, others in the surrounding area and across North Carolina, a ghost town, out of service bags covering pumps.
Is this shortage that we're seeing a result of people panic buying?
It is. I mean, that's the big reason for it. I mean, when you look at
our supply and what we have, domestically and what we have in the reserves that we have, we really shouldn't be having this problem.
A high demand for fuel is now resulting in price jumps in West Charlotte. The Shell on Sam Wilson Road upping cost per gallon by 10 cents within a few hours.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to have to kind of lay low for a bit.
Drivers choosing to stay home due to rising gas prices isn't new to the Southeast. In 2016, the Colonial Pipeline shut down for 10 days following a gas leak. A spokesperson for Gas Buddy says, like then, the best option is not to panic.
There will be gasoline that will flow as soon as the pipeline restarts. Take this in stride. It's not the end of the world.
We mentioned seeing prices increase across the Carolinas, coming up all new at 6. What the governor's state of emergency means for price gouging. For now, reporting live in Charlotte, Taylor Young, Fox 46.
Oh.
Meanwhile,
yes,
here in America,
yes,
we do have problems, though they are different in scale. Disruptions at gas stations across the Southeast as a critical pipeline remains shut down due to a cyber attack. Huge lines formed across multiple states yesterday as panicked Americans started a run on gas. According to Gas Buddy, nearly 1,800 gas stations are out of fuel. Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia have declared states of emergency, while American Airlines says it is adding stops to some long-haul flights so planes can refuel. Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, is in Atlanta. David, good morning to you. The average price for a gallon of gas is right now at the highest it has been in nearly 7 years. How are people reacting?
People are panicking, Tony, and it's hurting all of us. Take a look at this picture out of Alabama. This lady filling up gas cans in the back of her vehicle is exactly what we're all being asked not to do. Where we are in Atlanta this morning, 30% of stations are reportedly out of fuel. This is like when we ran out of toilet paper and Lysol during the pandemic because everybody made a run on the grocery store. We have enough gas in this country. It's just a matter of hauling it to where it needs to be. So please, experts are asking, don't panic.
We got a call from family that said you better fuel up before you hit Tennessee.
There is panic at the pump from Virginia all the way down to Florida.
I suspected just prices would go way up. I didn't suspect that there wouldn't be any the next day.
Hundreds of gas stations across the region are starting to run out.
We put a stop to the can sales today. People were coming in and loading, trying to buy, 5 and 10 cans worth of gasoline. They're just hoarding it.
The pipeline sends oil from Houston, Texas to Linden, New Jersey, near New York City. Hackers breached the company's computer system, so Colonial was forced to shut down the pipeline, cutting off a major source of gasoline, jet fuel, and diesel to several states. Here's what panic buying could do. Hurt consumers long term, warns Gas Buddy petroleum analyst Patrick DeHaan.
The first thinking is, oh boy, prices are going to skyrocket and I need to fill everything I can with gas. And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that actually makes the problem much more acute.
This chaos left in the wake of Colonial Pipeline's ransomware attack has heightened concerns about America's cybersecurity. The energy grid and water supply have almost no federally mandated cybersecurity protections. And that vulnerability is costing millions of dollars. Listen to what Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said on Tuesday.
More than $350 million in losses are attributable to ransomware attacks this year. That's a more than 300% increase over last year's victimization of companies.
You know, Colonial Pipeline isn't the only ransomware attack happening right now. Did you know it's also happening at the Washington, D.C. Police Department? Hackers have reportedly stolen all kinds of information, including personnel files of police officers, and they're constantly releasing them until their demands are met. Bottom line, Anthony, some of the top officials in this country say we could have other infrastructure.
We begin with more panic buying of gas here in South Florida. The fear is driven by the hacking of the Colonial Pipeline hundreds of miles from here. And while that pipeline doesn't even supply gas to us here in South Florida, drivers are still out there filling up. WPTV News Channel 5's Matt Sesney live for us this afternoon in West Palm Beach at one station. Matt?
Shannon, there are no long lines here at this gas station. In fact, we saw this a lot today. This is a gas station that just doesn't have a lot of gas. They've had premium gasoline only all day, and that leaves drivers with just two choices: either pay more for the premium gas or go out and hunt for more gas. In West Palm Beach along Belvedere Road, Bob Nelson,
I'm a carpenter by trade,
was looking for gas.
Well, this is my first try today, so.
He literally came up empty, since this station only has premium gas. The regular, long gone.
Nobody can pump you gas.
Well, I got 20 cents worth.
That's it.
That's it.
The run on gas recently comes on the news of the Colonial Pipeline disruption, a huge gas supply link for a large part of the East Coast. But gas in South Florida, experts say, doesn't come from that pipeline. And any shortage here is over panic buying. It's not stopping anxious drivers, though, from gassing up.
They're running out in North Florida, but now it looks like it's contagious. I'm going to try another place, see if they have regular.
In Delray Beach, it was the same situation. Stations running out and drivers feeling lucky to find a place that still had gas.
I'm hearing that everywhere is running out of gas, and I don't want to run out of gas.
I think it's kind of like every other time there's any chance you're going to run out of gas. People run to the pump, fill their tank, probably won't even use it for a month.
Yeah, it's certainly been quite a difference from a year ago at the height of the pandemic when many people were working from home. Gas was in large supply everywhere and, according to AAA, was a full $1 a gallon less than what it is right now. We're live in West Palm Beach. Matt Sesni, WPTV, News Channel 5.
The impact is real out there. The shutdown could drive up gas prices, and some of you may have already seen those prices going up where you live, with some outages reported all across the metro. Here is what you need to know right now. News at 6. There's a regional emergency declaration for Georgia, 16 other states, and Washington, D.C. This came from the Department of Transportation and lifts restrictions for motor carriers and drivers who are giving help to areas that are suffering shortages of gas or fuel. Now the hack shut down some of the main supply lines.
North Carolina is now taking it one step further and is now declaring a state of emergency. This order temporarily suspends motor vehicle fuel regulations to hopefully make sure there is enough fuel supply throughout that state.
And we're not just talking about gas for your cars, but jet fuel as well. Hartsfield-Jackson International says it's good to go right now. Officials told us tonight they are working with other suppliers to make sure there is enough fuel in the tanks for safe takeoffs and landings. So the pipeline supplies nearly half of the fuel for the entire East Coast. This isn't the first time it is needed to shut down, but in the past, it wasn't because of something so criminal. On New Tonight, Paula Soro joins us live. Now, Paula, what could this mean for people trying to fill up?
Absolutely. Well, Aisha, you know, I spoke to an economics professor today who tells me gas prices have already increased about 7 cents a gallon at the pumps in the past week. And he says that they could continue to increase as we reach the weekend. From photos on social media showing gas upwards of $4 a gallon in parts of Georgia to Facebook statuses warning folks of gas shortages in some pumps, both a reflection of the cyber attack that shut down the Colonial Pipeline Friday.
The car that I drive, it's about 30 bucks a day to fill it up. If it goes up, it's going to be 50 bucks to fill up my tank. I mean, if driving 6 days a week, that's, you know, 300 bucks.
We have had disruptions in the supply chain for oil on the East Coast before. 2005, 2008, both saw significant disruptions.
Kennesaw State economics professor Roger Tutterow says the pipeline has been shut down several times before, many times due to natural disasters.
This is not new. It's just the nature of it being such a large part of the supply chain, the Colonial Pipeline, and being a cyber attack is what makes it somewhat novel.
According to CNBC, part or all of the Colonial Pipeline has been shut down about 30 times in the past 2 decades. In 2008, Georgia saw extreme gas shortages due to Hurricane Ike. Drivers in Georgia were paying $4 per gallon. Colonial had to shut part of its pipeline because of lack of access to supply and evacuation of employees in the path of the hurricane.
And if it becomes like it did in 2008, where people are getting gas cans, without gas, I don't work. And if there's no gas or it becomes extremely high, it's going to be very detrimental to my line of work.
But Tutterow says he's hopeful the pipeline will come back online by the weekend and people won't experience the gas shortage from 2008.
Good news is that like most good supply chains, we have buffers, we have inventories that are designed to help us in short-term disruptions.
Now, Tutaro also tells me that people might be noticing more of that gas price increase as we come out of the pandemic because there's more people out on the roads, more demand. But he says that people should not be panicking. Do not run to the gas pump if you don't need the gas. He says that would end up making things a lot worse. Aisha?
All right, Paula, thank you. So let's take this next level. Who is behind this mess? The FBI says it's a hacking group called DarkSide, and they're responsible for the attack. This is what you need to know about them. Experts say basically a group of hackers is now developing a marketing ransomware hacking tool and sell those to other criminals, but it claims the group is not political and only wants to make money without causing problems for society. The group even went as far as to say it will donate a portion of its profits to charities, but some nonprofits said no thanks. They turned them down. DarkSide hackers do what's called double extortion. Basically, hackers not only encrypt and lock up the data, but they also steal data and threaten to make it public if companies don't pay up. DarkSide says it doesn't want to cause problems for society, but this will likely cause problems for your bank account.
Yeah, that's right, Aisha. A lot of folks out there are feeling the financial impact when they go out there to fill up. We are Where Atlanta Speaks, and hundreds of you are weighing in tonight, sharing what you're paying for gas in your neighborhood. Check this out. Some of you are seeing gas go up at least 30 cents. Nidra says it went up $3.30 in Smyrna today, and Lee says it went up from $2.65 to $2.92 in just 10 hours in McDonough. Meanwhile, some of you don't have any gas in your town at all. Lisa says it's out in Sugar Hill, and Christy says the same thing is taking place in Cartersville. We want to hear from you folks, so weigh in on the 11 Alive Facebook page. This story, as it continues to develop, stay up to date on 11 Alive on the air and online.
It was 6 days ago when hackers launched what has been called the most devastating ransomware attack on critical infrastructure ever in the U.S. Believed to be the work of a criminal group called DarkSide based in Russia, the sabotage disabled the Colonial Pipeline, which merely supplies the East Coast with 45% of its fuel. But there may finally be a light at the end of the tunnel. It is Wednesday night, and the big story on Action News tonight is the restart of the country's biggest fuel pipeline. And that's big news for the hundreds of thousands of motorists in eastern United States who have been waiting on long lines for gas, or who've been turned away because their local service station had no gas. The shortages, for instance, 65% of North Carolina's gas stations were out of fuel, have been prompted by panic buying, topping off gas tanks, and unwarranted consumer anxiety. At the same time, the national average price for a gallon of gas ticked above $3 for the first time since 2016. The pipeline shutdown caused some of that, but prices begin to rise around this time every year. Plus, yes, we're coming out of a pandemic. But the bottom line, the pipeline has been turned back on, although it will take several days to return to normal. So let's go live to Action News reporter Dan Cuellar, who's in Drexel Hill. Dan, the big question for us, is there reason for drivers in the tri-state area to be worried about a shortage of gas?
None of you listen to the experts, Jim, and they seem to make sense. Still, panic buying has erupted in some parts of our viewing area. This out of concerns of what's been going on with that pipeline. Panic buying across the East Coast has jacked up fuel demand and prices.
It's $3.72 a gallon. I mean, for premium gas, that's what my car needs. It's unreal.
News of the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack, which began last Friday, caused longer than usual lines at the gas pumps at the BJ's on Kirkwood Highway in Ellesmere, Delaware. There were also longer than usual lines at the Costco in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. This even as officials urge people not to panic buy.
What we would really hope that people would do is just purchase gas as you normally would. There's no need to top off. There's no need to hoard.
And the New Jersey Gasoline Retailers Association points out that the pipeline is only a small fraction of how we get supplied with gasoline and diesel fuel. He says there are a number of refineries across the tri-state area and a bountiful supply of crude oil coming in through ports.
We've got a number of resources for finished refined product such as gasoline.
Dr. Eric Cole, a cybersecurity expert and author of the upcoming book Cyber Crisis, says the attack on the Colonial Pipeline should serve as another wake-up call of why critical infrastructure should not be connected to the internet.
If you go in and look at nuclear power plants,
over the last 3 years, 0 reported incidents because their systems are always isolated and never connected to the internet.
He says even though the company says it has regained control of the pipeline from the cyber attackers, it will still take time to make it fully operational.
My prediction is it's probably going to be another 3 to 5 days of no gas. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, we could be talking 2 to 3 weeks.
So some people here are getting nervous, but again, experts say there's no reason to do that, even though prices seasonally go up this time of year. We're live here in Drexel Hill. I'm Dan Cuellar, Channel 6 Action News. Jim?
Thank you, Dan.
I did learn that there is a driver shortage. First, let me just show you this gas station in Bowie. It's one of the many that do not have fuel right now. And when the gas does come, a stressed out tanker driver we talked to today said he's followed by people into the station. They mob the place and he gets blocked in to the point where he's delayed getting out and making the next drop. Here is that driver. His name is David Wimanzi. We talked to him a short time ago.
It's kind of hard working right now. We get so overwhelmed with the stops. Every time I just try to ask people when we get to the station, please watch out for this big truck because we really need more rooms. So if they could just try to stay away a little bit from us.
The scramble for gas at stations is compounded by a shortage of qualified tanker truck drivers, according to Mike Coraluso of Teresi Tank Lines.
We had a driver shortage problem, and then with the pipeline going down, it compounded an already existing issue. It kind of doubled down on a bad situation, made it worse.
According to the National Tank Truck Carriers Association, as many as 25% of the country's fleet of tankers is parked right now. Coraluso said drivers laid off when gas demand crashed during the COVID crisis found other, easier jobs hauling freight, and they have not come back despite high pay and good benefits. Right now, Coraluso said the drivers that are working in the D.C. area are making longer runs to get fuel.
In the D.C. market, you come from Northern Virginia, we may have to go to Baltimore at this time. I know Baltimore has barge access, so there's plenty of gas in Baltimore for us to load. It just makes it going up to Baltimore a little bit more difficult with the travel time. It's my understanding, though, that we're looking at maybe the next 24 hours. I know the pipeline's been restarted and hopefully get things back to normal real soon.
They need more drivers. Come out here and get this work done. Just people appreciate what I do out there.
And they do. So, to summarize, it's longer drives for the truckers to go get the fuel. Once they drop it into the ground in places like this, they get followed into the stations and delayed getting out of here. That driver begged me to tell you, please, if you're at a station, a truck is making a drop and there are lots of people coming in to get the gas, please do not block them in. Let me leave you with some good news. I just spoke with AAA Mid-Atlantic. Their best estimate is as the fuel begins to roll again, the worst part of this situation should be over within a week, no more than 2. They are predicting gas prices are going to rise and they're not likely to come back down after Memorial Day weekend. Reporting live in Bowie, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.
All right, Scott, thank you.
Concerns of a gas shortage tonight here on the First Coast and across the nation. A computer hack on the Colonial Pipeline caused some shortage worries, and those have now become a reality with people panic buying. A big update on the pipeline in just a minute, but first, on your side's Don White is live in San Jose with the story of a First Coast woman stuck for days in North Carolina. Don.
Good afternoon, Anthony. I was here at the snack and gas station along Powers Avenue in San Jose a couple hours ago, and then when I came back here around 5 o'clock, I found that the station was completely out of gas, as you can see by this sign here, and then this bag right here on this pump.
We decided to take a trip up to St. Louis to see our daughter, and we stopped halfway in Asheville and for a couple of days to visit friends.
Sharon Barfield's trip is taking an unexpected turn.
There's no gas at all.
The St. Johns County resident is now stuck in North Carolina, noticing people hoarding gasoline at the pumps.
I don't think it's just from shutting down the pipeline. It's from people who are hoarding the gas right now, and overfilling and carrying containers away of gasoline.
University of North Florida psychology professor Dr. Tracy Alloway says two things can lead to hoarding behavior.
The first is a perceived threat. If we feel we're in a position that's going to threaten our survival, we can tend to engage in hoarding behaviors. Another option is a perceived scarcity.
Barfield believes she may not have time to see her daughter in St. Louis due to not having gas in North Carolina.
As people panic and think they're not going to have gas, they're buying more gas, lots and lots of gas that they don't really need this week, and then other people are getting stranded.
Dr. Alloway says that it's important to figure out how much gas you actually need for the week so you are not ending up hoarding and causing people like Barfield to be stranded. And the owner here tells me that he just put an order in today for more gas, and he hopes to have gas here at the pumps by tomorrow. Live in San Jose, Dawn White, First Coast News on your side.
As the Colonial Pipeline remained offline, Tuesday brought scenes like this one at a Costco in Fairfax, with long lines also seen at least 3 gas stations in Fredericksburg. With Colonial Pipeline still working around the clock to bring its systems back online, Harry Holzer, a public policy professor at Georgetown, said the company's effort and messaging could play a key role in the days ahead.
If Colonial can convince people that they're going to be up and running again, any price spike ought to be modest and temporary.
But with our region already seeing some panic, Holzer encouraged other drivers to stay calm.
If we can convince people not to panic, most of these things ought to pass fairly quickly.
The concerns also spread to nearby docks, where Columbia Island Marina in Arlington worried when its next fuel delivery might arrive.
My delivery is basically cut in half, and they don't know when I'm going to get it.
Nicer weather has led to more boats on the water, but General Manager Matthew McDaniel says that could change as the marina waits for more gas.
I'm at the point now where I'm notifying slip holders like, hey, we may run out of fuel here.
A pipeline shutdown bringing concerns over shortages, with economic experts providing simple advice for all of us.
The best thing consumers can do if they want to help the situation is to not panic and not engage in panic buying.
Tom Dempsey, WUSA 9.
All morning long, we've been keeping you updated on the gas situation around Northeast Florida. And fortunately, there are several places that you can still get gas this morning. There is no need to panic or hoard buy. However, like I said, we have been keeping tabs on some of the locations throughout our area that are experiencing shortages, whether they don't have gas or diesel. And we actually have Melanie, who is currently at one of those gas stations, who are experiencing some issues for drivers as they hit the road. So, Melanie, what do people need to know if they're heading out to where you are?
All right, Lena, so we are here at Beach and San Pablo, and this is just a symptom of exactly what you were talking about. People panicking and thinking that there just is not enough gas. The folks here say that they get the same amount every day, and yesterday they just ran out. So this morning they ran out of gas because so many people came buying thinking that they were going to run out. So it's not an issue of not getting it, it's just an issue of people buying too much. So as you see behind me, there is a little bit of a line because there is only one pump open today, and that pump is actually only giving out premium gas. So we're talking maybe about 6 cars. It's going around. You know, I think what's happening is people will see a line, it makes them nervous, and they're like, let me get in this line because there must be an issue with gas. So when they do come up, you know, you see some people park because they're running in to grab a bite to eat or a soda or something, but the yellow bags do cover the actual pump because they are waiting on the supply truck to come in. So one of the managers said that they're hoping it could be any minute now. He said he actually was supposed to get that truck in last night or early this morning, and it didn't happen. And he said maybe because he's one of the smaller gas stations, they just aren't getting to him as quickly as he would like. So bottom line, you know, if you see something like this, you could go down the street and try a different station because it is likely that they will have gas. We talked to a guy right now who really is begging people, don't panic, just do your normal routine.
We might be in a situation, well, this situation doesn't even pertain to us because we get our gas from the barges, you know, and I just don't see it.
So he said that his wife encouraged him to fill up his extra tanks, and he didn't do it because he said he's going to go on with life as normal. So basically what he was saying is that here in Northeast Florida, we get our gas by barge. So this particular hack is not going to affect us. So try to do your normal routine. Try not to just panic and get gas when you need it. And it should be here for now.
Colonial Pipeline announces it is back to normal operations now, about a week after a cyber attack shut things down and panic buying sparked a gas shortage throughout North Carolina and across the East Coast. But we are still dealing with empty pumps here in the Triangle.
Yeah, according to Gas Buddy, 68% of Raleigh gas stations still don't have gas right now. Meanwhile, in Durham, 77% are without gas, meaning a lot of drivers in the Triangle are finding themselves in long lines and with high prices. CBS 17's Holden Koricki is getting answers about when things could finally start to stabilize and what you need to do until then.
The Colonial Pipeline is up and running. But for drivers like Jermaine Barnes, finding gas is getting a bit frustrating.
I do understand it was a hack situation that is nothing that we can do about, but you know, we got to have some kind of backup plan so we don't be waiting 30, 40 minutes at the pump.
Like many Triangle drivers, Barnes says he's being conservative on his trips.
I'm not going places where I don't need to go. I mean, not visiting people. So, I mean, watching where I'm driving. Yeah, we're doing everything different right now.
Help is on the way, so be patient. Help is on the way. We know that within the next 24 to 48 hours, we're still going to see some limited supply here in the Carolinas. I mean, that's just a fact.
Tiffany Wright of AAA of the Carolinas says gas supply should be back to normal within a week's time. But she says you shouldn't expect prices to drop anytime soon.
I do expect the gas prices are going to continue to climb. It's inevitable because the world is opening up. Demand is going to be going up. So, yeah, prices are going to be, inching upwards for the foreseeable future.
Gas Buddy analyst Allison Mack says she expects gas prices to peak around $3.05 sometime in June.
I don't think it's going to be any sort of record-setting gas price year.
As things slowly start to stabilize, the best thing you can do?
Just don't panic.
We are having supply flowing into Raleigh, so that's all good news.
In Raleigh, Holden Koricki, CBS 17 News.
And North Carolina's Attorney General is urging businesses against engaging in price gouging. Josh Stein told us his office has been flooded with more than 600 complaints since the crisis hit this week. If you are seeing prices that appear to be too excessive, the AG's office wants to hear from you. We have a link up right now on our website, CBS17.com, and on the CBS 17 News app.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us here for Wake Up Charlotte to Go. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Sarah French. Let's send it over to Larry Sprinkle for a check of that forecast. Some rain today, Larry.
Without a doubt. Not the prettiest picture of uptown. Gray skies out there. Some light rain in the forecast for today. Baseball action, but tonight, game time. First pitch 7:04 should be okay, but it's going to be cool. Make sure you got a sweater and jacket handy. Winds anywhere today from about 5 to about 15 miles per hour. Hour by hour we go. 11 a.m. at about 51 degrees. We stay in the low 50s throughout the afternoon. I think the bulk of the rainfall late morning into early afternoon. Let's go ahead and check that 7-day forecast for today. Once again, temperatures only in the 50s for the afternoon. Tomorrow will be sunny. Still cool, upper 60s. Will be in the low 70s on Friday. The weekend, not too bad. No rain expected. Those storms mid to upper 70s, and then Monday and Tuesday of next week back to the upper 70s, close to 80 degrees. So really, when you think about it, from tomorrow right into Tuesday next week, weather's looking A-OK, and that's your forecast this morning.
All right, just get through today. Larry, thanks. This morning, fallout over the Colonial Pipeline shutdown continues across the Carolinas, and we are seeing major issues specifically in and around Charlotte. So here's where we stand this morning. Gas Buddy says about 16% of all gas stations in North Carolina are completely out of fuel. For some context, at the same time yesterday, that number was just under 3%. And it's worse here in Charlotte, folks. Gas Buddy estimates about 35% of the city's gas stations currently have no gas. And even where you can find it, gas prices are surging. In both North and South Carolina, prices are up 18 cents a gallon just in the past week.
Good Wednesday morning to you. I'm Billie Jean Shaw in Still Creek. In both North and South Carolina, price gouging laws are in effect as gas shortages hit the Carolinas. And of course, we do know that prices are going to rise because of the shortage, but this is where it gets illegal. If businesses are jacking up prices
to profit from this state of emergency. So say, for example, you see something that's over $3, that's where you need to start reporting. In North Carolina, you can call 877-5-NO-SCAM. In South Carolina, you can go to the scag.gov website and fill out a form, or you can call 803-737-3953.
And if you're waking up this morning and your gas tank is on E, like you have to get gas today, there are some tools out there that will help you find gas stations that do still have fuel that you can go fill up your tank. We've been seeing all over social media images, pictures, videos just like this of cars stretched around buildings, down streets, and pictures of pumps that are saying that they are already out of gas. Gas shortage has been trending online. A lot of people asking where they can go, where people have been. So scan this QR code that you see on your phone and it will pull up our website. If you scroll down just a bit, you'll see a gas buddy, and then that will show you what gas stations near you still have gas and which ones are out of gas. There are other apps out there too. Gas Guru and Waze both have gas station outage selection, so you can see who has been hit hard by the panic buying and who hasn't quite yet. There really isn't a need to go out and fill up unless you absolutely have to. Experts are saying that this is going to get better today and over the next few days. So unless you are under that half tank, quarter tank, or your light is on, make sure you don't add to the problem to make it worse than it already is. We'll continue to keep everybody posted right here on Wake Up Charlotte to go.
Turning to more top stories of the day. Today, the CDC will vote on how to administer the Pfizer vaccine to kids ages 12 to 15. It comes after the FDA signed off on emergency use on Monday. If all goes as planned today, middle schoolers could begin getting the vaccine as early as tomorrow. President Biden says about 20,000 pharmacies across the country are ready to start those vaccinations.
Tonight, the heated debate continues over a plan to withhold millions of dollars from CMS. Mecklenburg County leaders taking public input on the proposal. It would keep $56 million from CMS unless the district comes up with a specific plan to help lower performing schools. Some commissioners say it's a good way to hold CMS accountable. Others say it's short-sighted. Your chance, though, to weigh in is tonight, 6 p.m.
Today, end-of-course testing starts for CMS students and thousands of others in North Carolina. The tests have to be taken in person, even by students who are still learning from home. Just like in the fall, students who don't show up for the tests will get a 0. Testing last semester showed more students are failing compared to last school year.
Football season just around the corner, and today, single game tickets for the Panthers 2021 season will officially go on sale. You can buy them starting 9 p.m. That's an hour after the schedule is announced. The NFL commissioner says that he expects league attendance to be full attendance at every stadium this fall. Of course, you can watch us every single weekday morning starting at 4:30 a.m. on Wake Up Charlotte.
Have a great day, everybody.
Some gas stations across Middle Tennessee say they are running out of fuel. This is because the Colonial Pipeline, which transports 45% of the East Coast fuel supply, shut down. It happened on Friday, but we are starting to feel the impact right here in Nashville. One Kroger gas station in Hendersonville actually had to shut down because they ran out of gas. News 4's Marissa Suley explains.
I've got one house with about 3 acres that I mow.
For Alan Smith, he's stocking up on gasoline for his mower and truck.
And so I thought, well, I'll take both cans and fill the truck up while I'm out with the excitement, concern about the gas shortage.
But like many people, he's not sure why there is a shortage.
I really haven't researched it yet. I don't know everything behind it.
I knew something about a pipeline.
This is a big kink in the hose. This is a drippy faucet instead of being wide open.
As Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis for Gas Buddy, puts it, the flow of the Colonial Pipeline was disrupted by a cyber attack. This pipeline moves 2.5 million barrels of fuel a day.
The Colonial Pipeline's being down is starting to impact supply, but not so much price.
DeHaan says, call it faith if you will. We shouldn't see prices spike, at least not overnight.
The good news is the federal government has waived some trucking restrictions so that gasoline can start moving south into Tennessee.
As for the pipeline, it should reopen soon.
Colonial has said they aim for Friday. I'm hoping that that is a underestimate, that they can return sooner.
Experts say the worst thing to do is hoard gasoline and decrease supply.
It's one of those things like it was with the toilet paper.
Fortunately, I don't have any immediate long distance travel plans.
That was Marissa Sulik reporting. Now, one line of the Colonial Pipeline shut down 5 years ago. And the experts say every day the pipeline is shut down, it's going to take between 5 to 7 days to recover. So it could be almost a month before the country is back on track. If you need an easy way to find the cheapest gas in your area, head on over to WSMV.com for those gas prices. In Nashville, the cheapest gas is currently at Sam's Club on Antioch Pike. That's $2.49 a gallon.
Turning now to the big story of the day, a national gas shortage affecting people at the pumps.
Yeah, our crews are in the field right now today, giving you the latest information on how it's affecting us here in Hampton Roads. We go live now to Alex Littlehale. So let's turn to Alex. Alex, where are you right now and what's going on out there?
Hey Bethany, hey Ashley. Well, we're actually at a location where people tell us that they're actually feeling pretty lucky. You can see that there is some people waiting at the pumps right now. They're having to wait a little bit in line to get this gas, but they're getting it at a relatively normal price. If you can see behind me, that price tag for regular 87 listed at $2.85 a gallon. This is the Wawa here on Newtown Road. It is just down the road from Virginia and Wesleyan University. We've been here for about an hour, and at different points since we have been here, the line has stretched out to the road at each of the entrance points to this gas station. But again, people are still able to get gas here just if they wait a little bit longer. And when you look at the gas tracking app, Gas Buddy, this is actually one of the few stations in this area that does not have a filter yet, indicating that it's yet been affected by the national shortage. But again, that could change as the day progresses. But we talked to one driver actually making deliveries all the way from Richmond today. He says this is about the 8th or 9th gas station that he's had to visit so far because all the other ones have already been out of service.
So I started in Suffolk this morning. Now I made my way here in Chesapeake, and I've been to about 8 different stations, and haven't had any luck. Everything's been out of service. I figured, seeing people go to Wawa, seems like that's the spot to get gas. Be prepared to wait in line for about 25-30 minutes,
Now, according to petroleum experts with that gas tracking app, Gas Buddy, as of 7 a.m. this morning, about 15% of stations in the state of Virginia were without gasoline. Virginia Beach, I'm Alex Littlehales, 13 News Now.
And more people pulling up right behind you as you speak, Alex. Thank you for that report.
So the fuel is flowing at some gas stations, but the fuel shortage, among other concerns, have driven prices higher. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bill Young.
And I'm Liz Ortiz. The average gas price statewide is up by 20 cents in the past week. People want to know if and when those prices will improve, especially as we get closer to Memorial Day weekend. CBS 17's Joseph Holloway live with the answers he's getting from experts. Joseph.
Bill, Liz, if you have not been to the pump in the past week, know that you are going to see higher prices. We'll give you an example. We are here at the Circle K on Wake Forest Road. You can see that price right here. If you're paying cash or credit, you are going to be paying $2.86 per gallon. But as you can tell, it's not stopping these people here this afternoon. Now, the gas shortage was a catalyst in a spike in gas prices across our area, with Gas Buddy saying that the average price of gas statewide went up 20 cents in the last week. They also say the average price in Raleigh is nearly 17 cents higher than it was a week ago, and it's 13 cents higher in Durham and Fayetteville. AAA says those prices should start to hopefully calm down this week, but don't be surprised to see them tick back up ahead of Memorial Day weekend.
As things are getting, resupplied and we're seeing more stations getting their fuel, I think we'll see a little bit of leveling off. But for now, higher gas prices are in the foreseeable future.
Right now, Gas Buddy says 52% of North Carolina gas stations are without fuel this afternoon. That's down 4% from this morning, but it still puts North Carolina in the lead among other states when it comes to outages. But experts say that they do expect those numbers to improve significantly today and tomorrow. Live in Raleigh, Joseph Holloway, CBS 17 News.
You already noticed gas prices are skyrocketing. Right now, the average price of gas here in Georgia, $2.76. The national average is just below $3, and prices are expected to spike even more if Alpharetta-based Colonial Pipeline doesn't restart its main systems very soon. Our Rebecca Schramm live with the breaking new details. Rebecca, you've been seeing fuel supply problems since early this morning.
Yeah, Karen, you know what? It's very sporadic. Some places have plenty of gas. Others, like this racetrack here in Northwest Atlanta, only have select grades of fuel. That same kind of hit or miss scenario is happening all across the region. At this QT in Woodstock, drivers pulling in to get gas quickly realized most of the pumps were empty.
Pretty crowded, bags over the pumps.
I mean, I'm on empty now.
At this Atlanta racetrack on Bolton Road at Marietta Boulevard, stickers show which types of fuel are out. A scroll through GasBuddy.com shows there are plenty of stations that do have gas, but they're typically the pricier locations.
We just need people to remain calm, just give us a few days.
Governor Brian Kemp today signed an emergency order that will suspend the state's gas tax through Saturday because of the cyber attack that shut down much of Colonial Pipeline's network. The governor said this is not the time to fill up every portable gas can you own like we've seen some people do.
My message to people is, look, everything that we are hearing, and we will let you know if this changes, but they are saying that this is going to be a short-lived problem. The suspension of the gas tax is only through Saturday of this week, so we feel like it's very temporary.
Drivers hope he's right.
I need to go to the store, and I'm going to the doctor's now, and I'm not sure I'm going to get there and get back.
We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic about it.
And taking a live look, I want to mention the governor also announced Georgia is increasing the weight limits for trucks that transport fuel, and his order prohibits price gouging. Live in Northwest Atlanta, Rebecca Schramm, CBS 46 News.
We're going to be still putting that rush to the pumps. Rebecca, thank you.
We begin with the latest on that cyber attack that has forced one of the nation's largest pipelines to shut down. As a result, long lines are now forming at some gas stations in the southeast. So far, 7 states have reported a small number of pumps running out of fuel entirely. So Laura Podesta joins us now with some more details on this. What is the latest on this, Laura?
Good morning, Emery. Well, the FBI now confirms the group DarkSide is responsible for the cyber attack. They are a Russian group, but not affiliated with the Russian government. In fact, according to a statement on their website, they are apolitical and just out for money. Drivers in parts of the East Coast are feeling the immediate effects of the Colonial Pipeline shutdown. Some waiting an hour or more at lines at the gas station before filling up, or hearing news the pump had run dry.
And it's unbelievable. When I was riding today, I thought that it was a catastrophe coming. I'm like, what's going on? I seen all these cars parked everywhere, and I was just like, OMG, I have to fill my tank up.
North Carolina has declared a state of emergency and suspended some regulations to make sure the state has enough fuel.
If this outage goes past the end of the week, prices could spike pretty dramatically.
The pipeline delivers roughly 45% of the oil used by the East Coast. A group of Russian cyber criminals who call themselves DarkSide have been identified by the FBI as responsible for the disruption. The pipeline was forced to pause its operations after the hackers accessed its computer systems. President Biden said yesterday he doesn't think the Russian government is to blame.
I'm going to be meeting with President Putin, and so far there is no evidence based on from our intelligence people that Russia is involved, although there's evidence that the actors' ransomware is in Russia. They have some responsibility to deal with this.
U.S. officials and Colonial Pipeline say they hope to get fuel fully flowing again later this week. They insist right now there is no significant shortage. 4 days after shutting off the 5,500-mile pipeline, the company says it is now back online, but under manual control. Anne-Marie.
Well, I am fascinated by this DarkSide group. So they're Russian, but not affiliated with the Russian government. What else do we know about the group, their motivations or intentions?
So DarkSide cultivates a Robin Hood image by stealing from corporations and giving a cut of the money that they make through ransoms to charities. And they are really bigger than just a few hackers. They work with other affiliate groups, and then by giving them ransomware, and then those affiliate groups give a cut of the money that they make back to DarkSide. And the BBC reports that in a statement on DarkSide's website, they said that they don't mean to cause any problems. They're just out for money. But clearly, Anne-Marie, this has caused a massive disruption here in the U.S. And right now, it's unclear if Colonial Pipeline ended up paying them any ransom money at all.
Very interesting, Laura. Thank you.
All week long, we have seen the scramble.
I have been here now for an hour and 15 minutes, and this is my 5th gas station.
It's a panic. Everybody's panicking, just like the toilet paper supply.
Across the southeast and up the East Coast, gas prices are going up and pumps are going dry. In North Carolina, where at one point more than 70% of stations were out of gas, the shortage led 5 school systems to switch to remote learning. Now, the bulk of the pain has moved up north to D.C., where Friday outages were still at a whopping 81%.
I didn't know how I was going to make it home.
All areas along the Colonial Pipeline, the nation's largest fuel supplier, forced to shut down after a ransomware hack. It is now back online, the $5 million ransom paid. But experts say that it will take a bit longer for that relief to trickle down to the pump.
It's going to take 1 or 2 weeks to get it down enough where motorists no longer have to think about where to fill up.
And it's doing a number on prices, too. The national average topping $3 per gallon for the first time since 2014. But are the issues driven by the pipeline or panic? Consider Miami, where at one point more than 40% of stations were out of gas, despite the fact that South Florida is not even served by the pipeline.
So essentially, it came down to people panic buying. That was what was causing a majority of the problem, not the pipeline itself.
That appears to be the case. Definitely the concern played a big role.
And guys, back here live in Atlanta, this is the sign that's been greeting a lot of people as they've come to fill up their pumps. But again, because that truck is now here refueling, these will likely go away very soon and the supply will be back up. Now, back to that actual hacking of the pipeline, the FBI says that it was carried out by a criminal hacking group called DarkSide. Well, in a statement, the group says that it now claims that it's going to be shutting down after receiving what they call pressure from the U.S. Earlier this week, President Biden said that he is not ruling out a retaliatory strike against the group. Guys, back to you.
Our gas stations here in D.C., many of them out of gas for the last several days. Blaine Alexander there in Atlanta as well. Blaine, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.
None of the fallout from the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. While the pipeline is back up and running, the gas shortages caused by a combination of the shutdown and panic buying persists. ABC's Elwin Lopez is at a gas station in Atlanta as the entire state of Georgia remains under a state of emergency. Good morning to you, Elwin.
Eva, good morning. Here at this gas station, they are still out of premium and fuel shortages are starting to ease up a bit, but gas is still hard to come by in several parts along the East Coast. Gas Buddy reporting more than 80% of pumps still dry in Washington, D.C. And I want to read the statement from Colonial Pipeline. They just released this morning saying more than a dozen states, including North Carolina, Georgia, and D.C., are now receiving products from our pipeline. Over the past few days, experts say the biggest driving force behind the outages, panicked drivers hoarding gas.
I've been looking for gas for 2 days, like late nights and everything, and couldn't find gas anywhere.
This was more about that psyche that devolved into panic, driving these outages more so, in my opinion, than the results of the shutdown of the Colonial Pipeline.
North Carolina, hard hit by the outages, shifted several school districts on Friday to remote learning due to the shortages. And now DarkSide, the group behind the hack, said it was shutting down, but experts say it was likely disrupted by law enforcement. Now, Gas Buddy says it could take a week or two for gas stations to get back to normal, but they're hoping that the hunt for gas will be a thing of the past by Memorial Day weekend. Dan?
Let's hope so. Elwin Lopez, thank you very much.
Well, hey.
Hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
As American families pile into their cars and head out onto the highway this summer, finding a place to fill up might be tougher than usual.
There will not be a shortage of gasoline. There's enough gasoline. It's just a question of getting it to the station as quickly as consumers are filling up.
It's all because there aren't enough certified tanker truck drivers right now to deliver all the gas that stations may need. The industry had been facing a shortage of drivers even before the pandemic, according to the National Tank Truck Carriers Organization. Last year, with fuel prices dropping, many drivers were laid off.
Enter 2021, things have rebounded. Demand for gasoline is up. Those delivery drivers, in many cases, still gone.
Fuel tankers require drivers to have more training and certifications than standard trucks. But many driving schools were shut down because of COVID-19, so hiring new drivers may take some time. Up to 25% of tankers are currently sitting idle. The summer, analysts say some tourist destinations may have trouble keeping up.
Think Orlando, Florida with Walt Disney World, Yosemite, Yellowstone. Some of these areas don't have enough gas stations or truckers to be able to meet what could be a very high summer for gasoline consumption.
AAA says the national average for a gallon of gas is $2.89, up from just $1.77 a year ago.
$20 used to get me, a good half a week or so, and now $20 gets me home and back.
It makes me want to park my car, take out my bike.
Also driving up prices, businesses and entertainment venues starting to reopen and the traffic jams that come with them.
They're outrageous, considering that everyone's back driving again. Last year, no one drove at all, wasn't going anywhere.
For drivers, a downside of the return to normal, more cars on the road and more dollars going into the tank. For Today, Tom Costello, NBC News, Washington.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.
Lester, good evening. You can see hundreds of cars here, and this is just one gas station. Drivers here telling me they're waiting up to an hour. That's where the line starts. We can't even see where it ends. Those drivers also telling me they're seeing gas stations run out, and they're taking no chances tonight. Tonight, the lines for gas getting longer, from the Carolinas down to Florida. Panicked drivers overwhelming gas stations.
Just got to do what you got to do and just load up on gas and just not try to go too far away from home.
After a long wait at this gas station in South Carolina,
I've been waiting here for 45 minutes just to get gas.
Frustration.
We're out of gas. All out.
Across the Southeast, demand is up 40%. Prices at the pump inching up too. Nationwide, they're 6 cents higher than last week.
I'll spend that extra few bucks. That's the way it is.
Well, I just could have heard there was going to be a run on gas, and we figured I better get it now.
The 5,500-mile Colonial Pipeline is still mostly shut down. Tonight, American Airlines says it's adding refueling stops to 2 long-haul routes this week because of the outage. The timing couldn't be worse, with 37 million people expected to travel this Memorial Day weekend. That's up 60% from last year.
You'll be hoarding gas. If you don't really need it, then don't buy it. And if you are going on a car trip, maybe don't wait till you get to empty, fill up when you're at like a quarter of a tank.
Experts say despite the long lines and empty pumps, if the Colonial Pipeline meets its goal of restoring most service by Friday, there's no real cause for alarm. Tom Yamas, NBC News, Charlotte.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
First at 5, a South Florida gas shortage fueled by panic.
Filling up has become a challenge for many drivers today as the Colonial Pipeline hacking sparked widespread anxiety. News Channel 5's Matt Cesney is live in West Palm Beach with more on why this is unnecessary. Matt.
Yeah, Jay, Kelly, it is all fueled by panic, we're told. One gas industry expert tells us that downed pipeline really has nothing to do with the gas we get here in this part of South Florida. Yet, this Marathon gas station within the last 45 minutes played out a scene we've seen all over the place today. The gas pumps covered, the gas tanks here empty.
Just trying to get what we can.
Ease Bertrand was filling up gas containers in Delray Beach because he says his car was out of gas.
Got to make it to work and stuff, so I got to make it around.
He was at this Shell station at Congress in Atlantic because it was one of the few places with gas.
This is the third place, so I finally found gas, here. And then thank God they only got 87 though, so I know they'll be out soon too.
It was something of an oasis in what was becoming a gas desert in the area. Drivers pumping from any pumps they could find, all over the news of a massive disruption of the Colonial Pipeline along the East Coast. These cars were spotted waiting in line for a tanker delivery this morning in Royal Palm Beach. Industry experts, however, say there is no need for panic buying here, since the Treasure Coast in South Florida don't get their gas from that pipeline. Tom Closa is with the Oil Price Information Service.
We're seeing panic behavior, and we're seeing it spread from the areas that are supplied by Colonial Pipeline to some areas that are not. All of the product that comes into South Florida, essentially Tampa, Cape Canaveral, and Port Everglades, comes by tanker or barge.
And for some drivers, the panic over buying gas was way too familiar.
Toilet paper. Remember that? You couldn't get one roll to a person.
And no reason for it, right?
No reason. Everybody panicked.
Alan Notice of West Palm Beach says he just needed to get about half a tank, but he wasn't letting it ruin his day.
Okay, so I'll go somewhere else, and if not, I won't drive as much, that's all. I'll go spend the day in my pool.
Well, I wonder if he did get any gas or is sitting by the pool right now. Gas industry experts say all this panic buying is really putting a strain on gas supplies. The owner of this Marathon gas station says he is expecting a tanker delivery, but he says he just doesn't know when the truck will get here. We're live in West Palm Beach. Matt Cesny, WPTV News Channel 5.
And I was just pulling up on my phone here. Gas Buddy has launched a website here. It's a fuel availability tracker. I know a lot of us on Morning Rush have tweeted this out. We've posted it on our social media. Very easy. All you do is put in your zip code and it pulls up gas stations near you that have fuel. It also pulls up prices. So again, head to some of our social medias if you're looking for that. That is a website by Gas Buddy. I found it very helpful this morning.
Yeah, it is extremely helpful. They have the app and also the web version. I put some information on my social media pages as well if you're trying to figure out where to find it. Mara, thank you. And we want to mention that Colonial Pipeline is expected to meet today to decide on next steps for restarting operations. The pipeline has been shut down since Friday because of that cyber attack. And even if things do get back up and running soon, Georgia may not see the immediate impacts as that gas will begin flowing at about 5 miles per hour. We are continuing to see a slight uptick in gas prices all across the metro, as Maura just mentioned there. Francesca Amaker joining me now with details on how to report price gouging, because we are seeing some high prices out there, Francesca.
Yeah, we're seeing the gouging. We're also seeing limits be put in place, and there are some numbers and some email addresses for you to contact. Now, Governor Kemp suspended the state's fuel tax through Saturday night to keep those prices at the pump a little lower, and his order also prohibits price gouging. So here's what you can do if you see these outrageous prices. Price gougers could be fined up to $5,000 per violation in Georgia. If you expect price gouging in your area, there are ways to report it. Take a look at your screen. 404-651-8600. Call that number, or 1-800-869-1123 to reach Georgia's Consumer Protection Division. Or you can simply fill out an online form by going to their website. Check it out. It's consumer.ga.gov.
Now for the latest on gas shortages all across the metro and in the state. Want to turn to Francesca now with the latest developments. We're still feeling the pain here.
Oh, yes, we are. But there is some good news. The gas is making its way back to the Peach State. In fact, the gas situation is starting to get a little bit more normal here in Georgia. Less than 12 hours ago, Gas Buddy reported only 39% of gas stations across the state did not have any fuel. And that's less than what we saw yesterday. Remember, I told you it was 44%? Well, Gas Buddy estimates the state is now seeing an average of 18 cents per gallon increase. It could be Memorial Day weekend before some areas see gas situations return to that normal supply. Chesley, hopefully you're still all filled up, but luckily we're seeing less of that panic panic buying happening around town.
You know, I've been driving around, I'm looking at the gas station to see, okay, is anybody at the pump, people at the pump, that kind of thing. I've seen some shut down, I've seen some people there. So far, cars holding out.
We're doing good.
It's holding out, Francesca. Thanks a lot.
All right, this is what we're seeing up and down the East Coast. Long lines of cars at gas stations just waiting to fill up. News of the ransomware attack on that Colonial Pipeline has raised fears of gas price hikes and also a fuel shortage. That's happening in places like Georgia, North Carolina. What about Florida?
Well, Fox 13's Jennifer Holton is looking at the state's gas supply and why there may be some concerns, and she joins us now live from Channelside. Jennifer, what can you tell us?
Hey, good evening to the both of you. Anytime you hear there might be a potential for shortages or raised gas prices at stations, there's typically this panic at the pump. And I will say that some Floridians will be affected, but it's only a certain part of the Sunshine State. From panic buying to restrictions at the pump, a ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline that delivers 45% of the East Coast fuel supply has left consumers on edge.
Since Colonial supplies the terminals every 5 days, and we're now on day 5 of this shutdown, the terminals have started to run out of gasoline, and as a result, many gas stations in the affected area are now out of gasoline.
GasBuddy.com's lead petroleum analyst says Florida is not exempt, but it's mostly North Florida and neighbors.
So far in Florida, about 2.6% of stations are out of fuel. Most of the stations that are out are in Mobile, Pensacola, that area, and also Tallahassee and Thomasville. About 50% of stations in Mobile and Pensacola are out of fuel, and about 33% now in Tallahassee.
The disruption comes during a nationwide truck driver shortage and an increased demand for fuel heading into the summer travel season. A bad time for a crisis, but LaPau says the crisis isn't the supply, it's the delivery.
Unlike the February freeze that affected refineries in Texas, or a hurricane that shuts down refineries along the Gulf Coast, refineries are continuing to operate. They're just waiting for the pipeline to restart.
And because the issue is with delivery and not product, DeHaan says prices will not surge.
This time around, it's all about really supply in these areas and very little concern about prices. It's only a few cents a gallon that we're seeing of an increase.
So now, Linda, after hearing that, I think we can all just breathe a collective sigh of relief that, gas prices aren't necessarily going up despite all of this. And the reason why Tampa is not affected, it's because our supply is brought in directly from the Gulf. So Tampa, Orlando, Miami, really 2/3 of the southern part of the state all gets it via barge. Back to you.
Yeah, good information to know as many of our viewers plan summer vacations. Thanks.
Here in the state of Georgia, the governor has actually declared a state of emergency over these gas outages. And in fact, in several other areas, we actually saw the number of outages go up over the weekend. Now, as one expert told me, we are currently in recovery mode. Of course, that pipeline is back up and running. It has been for several days now, but it's going to take some time before we feel that relief trickle down to the pump. And that's due in large part to what experts are calling simply panic buying. So as we look right now, that's why we're seeing the result that we see. Nearly 13,000 stations completely out of gas. Latest numbers show that the hardest hit area, Washington, D.C., 88% of stations are running out of fuel, completely out of fuel. That's followed by North Carolina at nearly 60%. Travel further down south, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, all seeing the same issues. Now, the other factor to all of this, of course, is just the seasonal demand for gas. Of course, as we're entering those summer months, more Americans are hitting the road, especially as the restrictions are being lifted. Experts say that that is likely going to drive the gas prices up. In fact, they're already the highest that we've seen in about 5 years. Now, experts say that there are some things that you can do to try and save gas in your own car. Consolidate errands, try and take only one trip at a time, and then just take the extra things out of your car to lighten the load. But bottom line, Craig, experts say that it could still be another week, possibly 2, before you can pull into a gas station and not have to worry or wonder whether they're actually going to have fuel.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.
More breaking news tonight. The president of Weigel's confirms the WATE 6 on your side that the company is experiencing a gas shortage. We went to a few different Weigel's locations tonight, including this one in Seymour. There were bags over the gas pump handles, people going up to them before then driving away. And diesel only. It's a similar story for the location in the 9400 block of Kingston Pike near a Strike and Spare Family Bowl. This is out in West Knoxville. And the news comes after the Colonial Pipeline, which is the largest refined product pipeline in the U.S., was attacked by hackers and had to halt operations. Now, we're still working to find out more about Weigel's gas shortage, including how long it will last. We'll, of course, update you when we learn more information. And we also reached out to Pilot Company tonight for an update on their gas supply. Company's senior vice president and supply of distribution tells us, quote, due to the unexpected spikes in consumption, there is increased strain on the supply chain, and we are working hard to quickly address any temporary shortages. In Knoxville, our Pilot Flying J travel centers and Pilot convenience stores remain open with adequate fuel supply at this time, end quote. Meanwhile, tonight, we noticed that the Kroger pumps in Powell are out of both premium and mid-grade gas. Despite this, though, one man we spoke with tells us he didn't have any trouble fueling up.
When I came in, I had a quarter of a tank and want to top it off, so I was pleased. This is a crazy situation. I hope it straightens out within the next 3 or 4 or 5 days.
I think a lot of people would agree with you there. We should take time to note AAA is warning people not to panic buy gasoline, since that will only make things worse. AAA also tells us that once the Colonial Pipeline is running again, the impact may linger because it can take anywhere from 15 to 18 days for the pipeline to pump fuel from Texas all the way up to New Jersey. Of course, we're somewhere right in the middle.
Day 4 and a critical 5,500-mile oil pipeline remains shut down this morning. Gas shortages now being reported in at least 6 states and expected to grow, stretching down the highways as customers wait at the pumps. The governor of North Carolina has declared a state of emergency. The station there running out of fuel.
Motorists that absolutely have to travel should be about the only ones on the roads. The severity of the situation is significant.
The fuel supply shortage also impacting some air travel, including 2 daily flights from American Airlines. President Biden now promising swift action.
The Department of Energy is working directly with Colonial to get the pipelines back online and operating at full capacity as quickly and safely as possible.
The ransomware attack is also exposing new vulnerabilities, from oil and gas to power grids to dams to the nation's water supply, often owned by private companies.
They serve as the first line of defense, and we depend on the effectiveness of their defenses.
The FBI confirming that the cyber criminals responsible for the pipeline attack are known as Dark Side, a sophisticated Russian-based criminal gang that targets the data of English-speaking entities for ransom payments.
Whether this is approved or authorized by the Kremlin is increasingly irrelevant, because Russian operations in criminal groups has been going on for years. So there's some degree of tacit approval because it's happening under their nose.
Colonial, critical to America's fuel market, has not said whether it will pay the attackers' ransom demands. But experts warn because cyber criminals often make money off these types of attacks, companies, small and large, which power the nation's infrastructure, are at risk.
This is one of many warning shots. We've been seeing this for quite some time. It's going to continue.
So, Tom, it sounds like gas prices will be going up. Do you know how high?
Yeah, so the expectation is we're likely to see 2 to 3, 4 cents a gallon increase over the coming days. If it lasts longer than that, we're going to go well over $3 a gallon on the national average. And by the way, that would be the highest since 2014. There are ways to make your fuel go longer. For example, if you're out running errands, do a bunch of errands on one trip rather than multiple trips. You may also consider making your car less heavy. In other words, take out the bulky items, the heavy items. That can help you extend your mileage on the car.
Just thinking about unloading all the stuff in my car. All right, Tom, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.
Welcome back. Drivers are struggling to find gasoline after a cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline.
Lydia Hu is in Avenel, New Jersey this morning. She's got more on this. Lydia, good morning to you.
Good morning, Maria. We are in Avenel, like you said, actually near the end of the Colonial Pipeline. You can actually see the tanks just behind me. These hold fuel that is transported through the pipeline coming from Texas. But analysts tell me that the fuel moves through the pipeline very slowly, traveling only about 3 to 5 miles an hour. So any fuel that started leaving Texas yesterday during the Colonial Pipeline's restart could take weeks to reach New Jersey. And that's part of the reason why relief is not expected at the pumps for days in areas that are having outages. Take a look at this. This is the latest from Gas Buddy to show us more than a dozen states are still having outages. As of last night, North Carolina, more than 74% of stations reporting outages. Reports from Georgia showing about 50% of stations having outages there. And those outages continued to tick up yesterday, even after this restart of the pipeline. Atlanta area, about 70% of stations having outages there. Now, experts say there were a couple of issues causing the outages. First, of course, the disruption in supply. Then, when states and the federal government rolled back on safety regulations allowing trucks to transport more gas and fuel, the ongoing shortage and truck drivers slowed that delivery. Then there was the consumer run at the gas stations and reports of hoarding. All of this is reason why that relief at the pump in the affected areas is not expected to come today. Listen.
Maybe a couple of weeks before things really start to feel normal. That is, you don't have to put in a whole lot of effort to find gas. So this is something that still could be a factor, a headache up until Memorial Day weekend, and it should really ease after that.
And now the national average of gasoline crept above $3 yesterday for the first time since 2014. And experts say that we could see that price continue to climb in the coming days, even as we see the restart of the Colonial Pipeline. They said the demand for crude oil had been growing in the days leading up to this outage as people are getting back on the roads, traveling, making travel plans ahead of the Memorial Day weekend. And now with the restart, expecting to take days to deliver relief, we could see that price continue to inch up a bit more. Back to you.
Yeah, obviously still a very fragile situation. Lydia, thank you. Lydia Hu this morning in New Jersey.
Fox News Alert tonight is first up here at 10. Coming out of the governor's office just a few hours ago tonight, declaring a state of emergency after that cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline. Shut it down over the weekend, and this pipeline is a major supplier of fuel for many of us on the East Coast, stretching all the way from New Jersey to Texas. So a lot involved here. Let's bring in Fox 13's Evan Axelbank, who's live in Tampa now, to explain what the state of emergency means for all of us. Evan, what'd you find out?
Well, of course, the word emergency is a big, meaningful word, but in this case, it just means that the governor is trying to help trucks move supplies of fuel throughout the state of Florida more easily. Here's what his state of emergency does. It removes limits on weight for tanker trucks. It also removes requirements that they only travel at certain times during the day, so weights and time. This order is going to have a big impact on the Panhandle because much of their gas supply comes from Georgia, which is served by the Colonial Pipeline. The goal is to get trucks moving into that part of the state right away, where between a third and a half of gas stations are out of gas. Supplies are also being moved from Jacksonville to the Panhandle, and tanker trucks need to be able to move up the east coast of Florida to reinforce the Jacksonville area. Thankfully, much of the gas in our part of the state comes from refineries in the Gulf, which have not been impacted by the shutdown.
Florida, in some markets, especially the Panhandle, is going to see higher prices. But I think if you're in Miami or Tampa or Jacksonville, maybe prices go up 2 or 3 cents a gallon. It's hard to say. When we look at the futures market is anticipating that Colonial Pipeline will restart the majority of their operations by this weekend. But I would caution people that it's likely to get a little bit worse before it gets better.
That's because he does not expect Colonial Pipeline to make a decision on reopening at least until tomorrow. He says prices have already gone up in the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Southeast by 6 to 8 cents a gallon, especially because moving gas by truck for long distances, of course, costs much more money. The governor's order also makes a point of saying that price gouging is illegal. We are accustomed to the Attorney General also reminding people that it is not okay to charge more money, in this case for gas, because times are tough. Guys, back to you.
Sure. Evan Axelbeck with us tonight live. Evan, thanks.
That critical pipeline at the center of the cyber attack. It is back up and running this morning as we are learning the company paid the hackers millions in ransom. The good news, fuel is slowly starting to flow again after that shutdown. Ariel Reshef is at a gas station in Charlotte, North Carolina. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, Cecilia. Right now here in Charlotte, the situation is slowly improving, but it is still a guessing game which one of these gas stations will actually have supply. If you take a look from our drone, you can see the lines here are already forming. This gas station got a shipment overnight, but they think they'll run out in the next couple of hours. A similar situation in many states affected by this pipeline shutdown.
This morning, hope on the horizon. Outside Raleigh, North Carolina, rows of tanker trucks finally fueling up now that the Colonial Pipeline is up and running 1 week after it was shut down in that unprecedented cyber attack. Amid the frustration and fallout, Colonial Pipeline under scrutiny. ABC News confirming a report from Bloomberg that a ransom in the low millions was paid to restart operations. Now in those states hit hard, promising signs of progress. Some gas stations that were empty getting a fresh supply. And gas prices dropping in several states in the southeast. But hundreds of stations are still without fuel.
Though the Colonial Pipeline remains open, it may still be a headache, a chore to find gas stations with fuel for the next 1 to 2 weeks.
And despite urgent warnings against hoarding gas, it's still happening. One man in Maryland riding a lawnmower to a station to fill several cans. In Florida, officials releasing photos of the charred wreckage of this Hummer that ignited near a gas station shortly after filling up on Wednesday. Fire crews finding 4 5-gallon containers in the back seat. One person was hurt. Patients wearing thin.
It just makes you kind of realize how fragile we are as a society. Like this one little incident is all it took to like kind of break down.
And police here in Charlotte tell us they are conducting patrols to make sure everything runs smoothly at these gas stations. Cecilia?
And that is the hope. But Ariel, before we let you go, President Biden said yesterday this won't be like flicking back a light switch. So when will the supply be back up to normal?
Well, Colonial says that we can expect intermittent service interruptions, at least for the next several days. But of course, there is that rush to get these gas stations back up to running as normal before the holiday weekend. Cecilia?
That is a good hope. Okay, Ariel, thanks so much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
How the gas shortage caused by the Colonial Pipeline disruption is impacting Americans ready to start their work week. The pipeline may be up and running again after that cyber attack, but gas is still hard to get in a number of areas on the East Coast. ABC's Elwin Lopez has more from Atlanta. Elwin, good morning.
Well, good morning. This gas station got a fresh supply of fuel just yesterday afternoon, but the unleaded kind, they are still out of premium. And some drivers might still have a tough time filling up their tanks. Now, the hardest hit spot this morning is the nation's capital, with more than 80% of pumps still without fuel. And then there's North Carolina, the Tar Heel state, with more than 60% of stations without gas. Now, while Colonial Pipeline is back up and running, it could take sometimes several days and up to 2 weeks for certain gas stations to get back to normal operations. And that's because the 5,500-mile pipeline flows at just 5 miles an hour. So it's a slow trickle to get these gas stations refueled after these long, crippling lines that we've been seeing over the past week. Now, the good news, though, is experts are saying that we should be back to normal by the Memorial Day weekend. Gas Buddy is expecting less than 20% of outages across all areas just ahead of that weekend.
Still a lot to get through. All right, Elwin, thank you so much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
Right now, Governor DeSantis is pushing to get more gas into Florida, lifting some restrictions in an emergency order.
A pipeline outage is causing supply shortages along much of the East Coast. Florida does not rely on that line. Despite that, though, long lines have still formed at some local stores. Ezzy Castro is following the latest live this morning. Ezzy, leaders say there's no need for so-called panic buying.
Yeah, so officials from Florida to Washington are urging people not to panic buy after reportedly some stations reported running out of fuel, like this one here in Oviedo. And it's important to note Florida does not get most of its gas from the pipeline that was targeted. Still, the governor is taking steps to try and help. Governor Ron DeSantis signed a state of emergency order to help free up resources following the closure of the Colonial Pipeline. The pipeline, which supplies much of the East Coast, was taken offline after a cyber attack last week.
I think this is something that demands really serious federal attention. This was essentially a cyber attack on critical infrastructure in our country. You can't just say it's a private pipeline, therefore we're not going to be involved. No, the U.S. government needs to be involved.
State Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried urged Floridians to remain calm after seeing long lines at some stations. Some are reporting outages at the pump. One viewer sent us a photo from a gas station in Sorrento.
Don't panic to buy gas. Don't hoard gas, and don't form long lines at gas stations like behind me. Fuel is continuing to move around our state.
Most of the state, including Central Florida, gets its fuel through seaports from Gulf Coast refineries.
We don't want to see these long gas lines persist throughout the northern part of our state.
So the pipeline delivers about 45% of the fuel used along the East Coast. Now, the company says it anticipates to resume most operations by the end of the week. Live in Seminole County, Ezzy Castro, getting Results News 6.
Mara Siriani continuing our team coverage for us this morning. She's live outside Children's Healthcare of Atlanta in DeKalb County. So, Mara, how is the gas shortage impacting essential workers?
Well, Sheba, I can tell you that frontline workers are certainly not immune to feeling the effects of this gas shortage. Here at Children's, they've actually changed and switched up and adjusted some of the employees' schedules. They're also urging workers and employees here to carpool. That, of course, in an effort to conserve gas. So we've also checked in with a number of different law enforcement agencies in Metro Atlanta. And the good news is they say a lot of them have their own reserve tanks, and a lot of these first responders and vehicles really run on diesel. So again, that is the good news. We also spoke with an advanced EMT for a Georgia county. She tells us she has a 40-minute commute to and from work each day. So it's the drive to the job that is causing her some stress. Take a listen.
Some of us, we may just stay here and stay on longer shifts and be here longer. And if we run calls all night and then we run calls during the day, we're exhausted.
And Lee is just reminding people that it's been a really tough and trying year for frontline workers. Of course, with COVID, they've really been pushed to the edge and the limits here. So she talked about some of that panic buying that Joe was just talking about moments ago. And she says when you do that, it takes away from these folks who really need that fuel and gas right away. Sheba?
Yeah, it has an immediate trickle-down effect. And Mara, I know you spoke directly with Metro Atlanta Ambulance Services. How are they handling the shortage?
I did. I spoke with Dennis. He's their public information officer. I talked to him yesterday. He said really they have their own reserves. They are prepared for things like this. The reason I reached out is because, of course, Metro Atlanta is such a densely populated area, but they've so far had no issues with responding to the same volume of calls. So far, this has not really impacted them, and that is more good news.
Yeah, that certainly is. Mara, thank you so much, reporting live for us from Children's Hospital.
Unrelenting long lines at gas stations across the area. Drivers hoping to fill their tanks amid a gas shortage. You're seeing just some of the gas stations across the upstate in this video. Now, we've been covering this live for you all throughout our newscast today. It all stems from that cyber attack against the Colonial Pipeline from last week. Officials asking everybody to remain calm and not top off your tank. But people really aren't listening to that advice. They do expect supplies to start moving back to normal sometime later this week.
Memorial Day just around the corner, and AAA says more Americans are planning to travel this year. So We wanted to find out if the pipeline shut down and people panic buying out there, creating all this madness, is going to impact those plans.
Fox Carolina's Brooklyn Cromer talked to an upstate man who tells us about his experience on the road today. And she has some tips from those travel experts, too. She joins us live at the QT. This is on Pelham Road in Brooklyn. You can see a lot of cars pulling in around you.
Yes, Tori, a lot of cars here, and I'll tell you, it's a familiar sight after driving around Greenville County today and just seeing some of the different gas stations and the amount of people that are at those gas stations to fill up their cars. Now, here behind me, you can see the line across on the other entrance of QT. There's actually about a dozen cars lining down Pelham Road just to get in here. And this has been the site for about 3 hours that I've been here tonight. It's pretty much been the same, just a steady line of cars throughout the evening.
Nick Trout and his family traveled home from Clearwater, Florida today after hearing about stations running out of gas and fuel prices rising. He admits they were worried about getting home.
We were kind of worried whether or not we'd be able to get gas, how long we'd have to drive out of our way to get gas. It's a little bit worrisome.
He says his family mapped out their trip home using the Gas Buddy app and leaving early to allow extra time in case they hit any roadblocks.
When we were going to hit an exit, we opened up the app just to see if there was gas in that area, and every time we needed to stop, there was gas.
He says he didn't notice any gas stations out of gas until he got closer to the upstate. But with Memorial Day a little under 3 weeks away, we wanted to find out if the shutdown could impact travel. According to AAA, once the pipeline is up and running, it takes about 15 to 18 days for fuel to flow from Texas to New York. But the travel agency predicts more than 37 million Americans still plan to travel this Memorial Day weekend. And Myrtle Beach is one of the top 5 road trip destinations in the country that weekend. But some say they're not planning any trips anytime soon.
From what I've seen here, I wouldn't recommend it just because it'd be hard to just get out the door, honestly.
But what can you do to conserve fuel if you are planning to travel? AAA offers some tips and suggests minimize your use of air conditioning, roll down your windows, and avoid using roof racks and remove special carriers when not in use.
And we were also curious how the fuel shortage could impact air travel. So I reached out to GSP. They say that they haven't had any flights here locally impacted by the fuel shortage, but they encourage everyone, if they do have flights this week, just to check in with their individual airlines to make sure that they aren't facing any delays. Reporting live in Greenville County, Brooklyn Cromer, Fox Carolina, the 10 o'clock news.
Continue to follow the big breaking news today. Long gas lines across the viewing area.
And drivers are stocking up after the recent news of a pipeline cyber attack. Chopper 10 was above a gas station in Norfolk today. You can see a line of vehicles waiting to fuel up. But it wasn't just Hampton Roads. Kayla Gaskins is live in North Carolina with the high demand there, too. Kayla?
That's right. We're at the Duck-Through gas station here in Moyock, North Carolina, right off of Caratuck Highway. What we're seeing here at this gas station is what we're seeing at many gas stations in the area. Cars are driving in, trying to fill up with gas, seeing the bags over the handles, and then driving away. We did stop by 2 other gas stations on the way to the Duck drive-through. One was a Shell station up the road. They were already completely out of gas by the time we got there this afternoon. And then there's the popular Border station that sits right at the North Carolina-Virginia border. They still had gas when we stopped there. Lines were forming, and a number of people were filling up big gas cans, multiple gas cans, saying they weren't taking any chances after Governor Cooper issued a state of emergency yesterday. We also spoke with a few people as they waited in line for gas down here in Moyock this afternoon.
My daughter-in-law says it's been like this all day. So it's like the toilet paper and paper towel shortage all over again, but it's gas now.
I got a half a tank. I'm trying to fill up so I can get back.
How many gas stations have you stopped at?
This is the 5th one.
And things are changing very fast out here. We arrived at the Duck-Through at around 2:45 this afternoon. There was a small but steady line. Within about 30 minutes, every single pump was empty. And if you take a look, you can see people scraping the bottom of the barrel to get what they could. Whoever was at this pump were able to get 15 cents worth of gas before it ran out. And then we'll come over here to the other side, and you can see the person over here was able to get 7 cents of gas. I'm not sure how far that's going to get you, but hey, I guess something is better than nothing. And again, similar signs out here in North Carolina. We did mention the border station still had gas as we were on our way down here, so we're going to check back in up there, see if they still have gas and what that situation's like, and we'll check back in with you from the border station at 5:30. That's the latest from Moyock. I'm Kayla Gaskins, 10 on your side.
As American families pile into their cars and head out onto the highway this summer, finding a place to fill up might be tougher than usual.
There will not be a shortage of gasoline. There's enough gasoline. It's just a question of getting it to the station as quickly as consumers are filling up.
It's all because there aren't enough certified tanker truck drivers right now to deliver all the gas that stations may need. The industry had been facing a shortage of drivers even before the pandemic, according to the National Tank Truck Carriers Organization. Last year, with fuel prices dropping, many drivers were laid off.
Enter 2021, things have rebounded. Demand for gasoline is up. Those delivery drivers, in many cases, still gone.
Fuel tankers require drivers to have more training and certifications than standard trucks. But many driving schools were shut down because of COVID-19, so hiring new drivers may take some time. Up to 25% of tankers are currently sitting idle. This summer, analysts say some tourist destinations may have trouble keeping up.
Think Orlando, Florida with Walt Disney World, Yosemite, Yellowstone. Some of these areas don't have enough gas stations or truckers to be able to meet what could be a very high summer for gasoline consumption.
AAA says the national average for a gallon of gas is $2.89, up from just $1.77 a year ago.
$20 used to get me, a good half a week or so, and now $20 gets me home and back.
It makes me want to park my car, take out my bike.
Also driving up prices, businesses and entertainment venues starting to reopen, and the traffic jams that come with them.
They're outrageous, considering that everyone's back driving again. Last year, no one drove at all, wasn't going anywhere.
For drivers, a downside of the return to normal, more cars on the road and more dollars going into the tank. For the news, I'm Tom Costello.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.
All right, happening right now, what everybody's talking about this morning, some gas stations in Raleigh, for example, out of gas. This gas shortage concern is leading to pandemonium at gas stations all across central North Carolina.
That is a great way to put it. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Bill. I want to get to our Joseph Holloway live at the Costco gas station in Raleigh. Joseph, we've already seen long lines. We've seen people kind of lose their cool out there so far this morning. What are we seeing now?
Yeah, we've definitely seen our share of animated people this morning, and we're also just seeing the lines get longer. We told you about the line that we saw over right here on Six Forks Road. Well, there's a second line. I do want to show you this real quick. So there's one line, and then there's the second one just coming right here into the parking lot of this Costco. Now, as we zoom in a little bit further back, this is where the pumps actually are, and it's taken quite a while for a lot of these people to just get up there. But several drivers that I talked to tell me that they struggled to even find a place that actually had gasoline this morning, so they came here. And one of the first drivers in line says that he saw the long lines last night here and knew that he needed to be in line early today.
I'm about on a quarter of a tank right now, so I didn't want to, idle in line. I wasn't sure how long the line was going to be or how late they'd be open, so I figured it'd be best to get here early as possible this morning.
Now, important to know, because of why all of this is really happening. It's all about that cyber attack, of course, with Colonial Pipeline and the fears about the gas shortage. So what Colonial Pipeline is saying is that it is working to deliver its current supply to the areas that need it most. But right now, it's not clear when they're actually going to be able to restart their pipeline systems. But as you can tell, a lot of people are still concerned about the gas shortage. Reporting live, Joseph Holloway, CBS 17 News.
We just learned from ABC News that the Colonial Pipeline paid a ransom after the ransomware attack against the company. Right now, we know that that ransom payment was in the low millions, but we don't know exactly how much. We will keep you updated as we learn more information both on air and online. Even as we see progress with the Colonial Pipeline, Southeast states are still facing a gas shortage brought on by panic buying. According to the latest update from Gas Buddy, 9% of Alabama stations are without gasoline. In Georgia, almost half of all stations, 48%, have no gas either. In South Carolina, 52% of stations are run dry. The same goes for Virginia, and in North Carolina, 68% are out.
With almost 10% of Alabama gas stations out of fuel, some local businesses are feeling the pinch. We 31's Grace Campbell shows us how one landscape business is dealing with the shortage.
You go to some gas stations and they might not have any. They might not have 93 octane. They might only have 87. So it's a little more, definitely more time consuming.
Elite Landscaping works on about 90 homes in South Huntsville and the Historic District. Robert Harrelson says the gas shortage is stressful for several reasons.
We have a lot of customers that are counting on us to do their yard, and then a lot of customers, they worry about citations and stuff. If they're not getting their yard cut in a timely manner, they're worried about getting citations, so just anxiety.
Harrelson says they need about 50 gallons of gas to fill up all their equipment. They do this every other day, but the gas shortage is making it much harder for them to do their job.
If we don't have any gas, we can't work. That's just bottom line.
Harrelson told me he's looking forward to when he can go to just one gas station instead of multiple to fill up all his equipment. Reporting in Huntsville, Grace Campbell, Way 31 News.
Now let's check in with the gas shortage. Gas stations in the Carolinas are still recovering from the run on fuel that has led to outages at the pumps. So as you can see here, right now, 43.7% of stations in North Carolina do not have gas. 40.3% in South Carolina are out of fuel, and gas shortages here bringing the prospect for some of switching to electric vehicles into the spotlight. WCNC Charlotte's Lana Harris joining us with more details on that tonight. Good evening, Lana.
Good evening, right. So I am here at the QT of Dalton Avenue in Charlotte, and you can see behind me there are still bags on some of the pumps here. We've seen around the city some places have diesel and no regular, or vice versa. Some have none at all. And drivers tell me this has really been an eye-opener when it comes to how dependent we are on gas. Some now searching for alternative options.
Since this whole gas issue hit, it takes me 45 minutes to find gas.
Andrew Bernstein's struggle is one that'll sound familiar.
I tried Gas Buddy. The stations seem to get gas and then run out. And then there's like mile-long lines.
Bernstein lives an hour out of Charlotte and says stations with gas from Lincolnton to Gastonia have still been impossible to find. These pictures documenting his journey to 7 different stations with no luck on Monday. At this point, Bernstein says it's not just a matter of convenience.
I got my daughter in the car. You know, I carry a gun with me now. I'm like nervous, you know, driving around. Where am I going to run out of gas? You know, it's ridiculous. It shouldn't be this way.
It's why Bernstein says he's done trying.
I just know I can't get gas. So we started exploring EVs, electric vehicles.
And he's not alone. According to Cox Automotive, sales of electrified vehicles jumped 81% in the first quarter of 2021. President Biden's $2 trillion infrastructure package includes $174 billion for the development and adoption of electric vehicles. The president touring an electric vehicle center on Tuesday.
It's amazing how far we've come.
Oh, yeah, it's astounding.
Bernstein believes the Colonial Pipeline shutdown will only convince more people to make the switch.
People are just fed up with the volatility of gas prices.
Now, our vulnerability to something like this hack leading to outages was a topic of discussion today in the North Carolina legislature, and we are going to talk about that coming up at 6 o'clock. But for now, here in Charlotte, I'm Lana Harris, WCNC Charlotte.
Yeah, a lot of people asking questions about that hack. Lana, thank you.
Here now, talking about the fuel problems in this part of the country, this part of the world. Watt Foster, he is the CEO of Foster Fuels, a boots-on-the-ground fuel distribution service that is working to get fuel where it's needed. It happens to be based in my hometown of Brookneal, Virginia. Watt, great to see you. This is your nuts and bolts. This is what you do for a living. Just describe the shortages and the problems that your company is helping deal with in the Southeast.
Well, thank you, Dagan. Yes, it's a real mess. We're used to it. This is our 100th year in business, so we're blessed there. We're going anywhere it takes to get gas today. Gas is short. We're trying to service our customers. You know, we're doing a great job. Colonial's a great company. It's just a cyber attack, and the line is down. We're going to different parts to get it. and we're going to make sure it happens. We're in the disaster relief business, so that's our job, and we're going to supply our customers. So thank you.
Watt, how many stations just that you've encountered are out of fuel? Like, just describe the shortages that you're seeing. Is there panic buying going on? Say, because people don't know where we're from, but it's in Southside Virginia, so it's not real far from the North Carolina border.
Well, we serve customers in North Carolina. Sure, there's panic buying going on. There's hundreds of stations out of gas. Our load book had 100 loads to haul today. Couldn't get a third of them done. It's just mounting and getting worse and worse as time goes on. But I think it'll be short-lived, and we'll get beyond this. Don't go out and panic. Don't use any more gas than you absolutely need to. Just be calm, and it'll be okay, I think.
Watt, this is happening at the worst time of the year, though, isn't it? Because we're gearing up for the summer driving season. Talk about that.
Yeah, planning couldn't have been any worse or better, depending on how you look at it if you're on the dark side. But we were at the tank bottoms because of reformulated gas going in. We're going from winter blend to summer blend, so the tanks are on the bottom at the terminals. So it was just the the perfect storm, as we say. So yeah, that certainly added to the problem.
Is this the worst fuel the pipeline shutdown? Because the Colonial runs right through Virginia. Is this the worst pipeline shutdown that you've experienced, or equate it with things you've seen in the past?
I would say yes. Today is about as bad as I've seen it. We've been through a lot of hurricanes, disruptions, but they've been very short-lived. This is just a little different. The pipeline's down. We don't know when it's going to get going again. It's a little unknown. Yes, it's pretty bad, Dagan. It's pretty bad. It's the worst I've seen.
Where are you picking up just fuel for delivery? How is it getting to your trucks? Explain that.
Well, Greensboro, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Manassas, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. But today we're going to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We're sending trucks to Kentucky, talking about going to Ohio, up in Baltimore. So wherever we can go, we got a large network of suppliers. Wherever we can go to get it, we're going to get it. And we got a big fleet of trucks. So if anybody can get gas, we can.
This is fuel that's already in storage, right?
Right. That's right. And if it's off the Colonial is where we're trying to go, off Colonial, if possible. And so Colonial's all up through the East Coast, 40% of our supply. So it's a big network. I think they ship 2.5 million barrels a day up the East Coast. So that the whole East Coast is down.
That's just incredible. Has Colonial been? What have they told you about getting the pipeline back up and running? How long?
Well, we're hopeful for Friday. They're trying to kickstart a few things right now, but they're doing things very carefully. And it's just, I don't understand cyber attacks myself. But I think they're being very careful and prudent, and they need to be because it's a serious situation.
Yep.
And so, hopefully this weekend things will open up a little bit.
Well, Watt, it's great to see you. Happy 100th anniversary in the business. And we should disclose my father, number one, was a groomsman in your parents' wedding, and our grandparents, my grandfather and your grandfather, started that very business.
I know. I've got their picture on my wall, Dagan. Your grandfather and my grandfather started this business together over 100 years ago, and it's something I'm very proud of, and I know you are as well.
They were selling lamp oil.
Yeah, lamp oil, coal, and groceries. So that was some good stuff.
And my grandfather stupidly sold out, and then you've made it into what it is today. So that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, let's trade for a few days and see who likes what best. So.
I couldn't do what you do, Watt. Great to see you.
Thank you, Dagan. Thank you so much.
Watt Foster, Foster Fuels, Brookneal, Virginia.
We are going to begin tonight with a run on gasoline from Florida to Virginia, with panicked drivers lining up at gas stations fearing a fuel shortage. Now, as we come on the air, there are reports of gas stations across the Southeast running dry at the same time that the price per gallon is running up, closing in on highs not seen in 6.5 years. And tonight, the governors of North Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia have all declared states of emergency. Now, all of this comes after a ransom ransomware attack targeted Colonial Pipeline and forced the company to shut down over the weekend, essentially turning off the tap for thousands of gas stations. Well, the White House is trying to calm fears, saying that while the Southeast is facing a, quote, crunch over the next few days, there is no concern about running out of gasoline. But that's not stopping commuters from topping off their tanks, leading to concerns tonight that scared drivers could actually make the situation worse, creating exactly the kind of crisis that the criminals who attacked the pipeline may have wanted. CBS's Jeff Pegues is at one of those gas stations in Alexandria, Virginia, and is going to lead off our coverage tonight. Good evening, Jeff.
And Nora, right now, this gas station behind me is out of regular gas. And what that means is that there are 7 or 8 pumps here that just aren't working. And there are thousands of gas stations just like this one up and down the East Coast from Virginia to Florida. Chaos at the pumps tonight.
This is worse than a hurricane.
Motorists are rushing to fill up, with some hoarding gas.
We got a call from family that said you better fuel up before you hit Tennessee.
The Secretary of Energy urged people not to panic buy fuel and said they are considering moving supply by train or ship if necessary.
We're asking people not to hoard and know that we are all over this.
The ransomware attack on Colonial Pipeline, carried out by the Russian criminal hacking group DarkSide, is having the kind of impact many analysts predicted.
This is a massive pipeline, and without it, we're quickly realizing what can happen. Fuel is starting to run out.
The 5,500-mile pipeline supplies 40% of the East Coast fuel. Shortages are now being reported in 7 states, including Georgia, where the governor suspended the gasoline tax.
It'll probably help level the price at the pump off for a little while.
Airlines are also feeling it. American forced to add refueling stops for 2 of its long-haul flights. And while Colonial Pipeline says that it expects to be up and running by the end of the week, the Biden administration is under pressure to make sure it doesn't happen again.
But this is a stark example of how these cyber attacks can have real demonstrable impacts on our economy and our national security.
There is now increased attention on securing other vulnerable targets, including the power grid and the water supply, which have few, if any, government-mandated cybersecurity protections.
But cybersecurity is the Wild West. There's really no regulation on these privately controlled networks and even the critical infrastructure.
Tonight, AAA is telling motorists that they can conserve fuel by avoiding rush hour and minimizing the use of air conditioning, which is something you don't need today here in Virginia. As for the shortage, experts say that it would take more than 10,000 big trucks hauling fuel every day to make up for what the pipeline typically delivers on any given day when it's not shut down. Nora.
All right, no need to panic. All right, Jeff Pegues, thank you.
The continued shutdown of the largest fuel pipeline in the U.S. has caused concern for some drivers in our area.
Yeah, you can see behind us just how far the Colonial Pipeline reaches. It's the red line right here on our map. It's responsible for almost half of the South's gas supply. The pipeline has been shut down for days now due to a cyberware attack by Russian hackers. It's not clear when the pipeline will fully go back into operation.
10 News reporter Shane Dwyer is live tonight at the Sheets in Roanoke.
Yeah, so Shane, the gas station owner tells you that this panic is all unnecessary.
Yeah, John and Brittany, he says that's right, especially since the Colonial Pipeline said in a statement earlier this evening that it has been trucking fuel to make up for this shortage. The Sheets Pier here behind us looks a little busier than normal for 11 o'clock at the night. But, you know, if you were here around rush hour, when people were getting out of work, 5 and 6 o'clock, traffic was spilling out onto Williamson Road. Your experience today really determined by what gas station you ended up at. A quick trip to the pump was not the experience most people had Tuesday trying to get gas. Paul Divers of Roanoke was one of nearly 100 sitting in line for fuel at the local Sam's Club.
I'm on half a tank right now, but everyone's trying to fill up, so I was gonna say I'm trying to get some gas before the prices go way up.
Mid-Tuesday, fears of a perceived gas shortage took off, sending people to the pump whether they needed gas or not. Many confused and frustrated. Divers says it reminded him of when gas was $4 a gallon.
That was back in like 2012. That was the last time I sat in a line like this.
I do expect supply to be very tight. We're having major issues getting gas.
Andy Gill is the fuel manager for the GB gas chain in Virginia. The Colonial Pipeline provides nearly half the fuel for the East Coast and was a victim of a cyber attack. News of a shutdown fueled the panic.
We're going to dry up some of these stations for no reason. And then now the truckers and the suppliers have to work harder to get those stores replenished. And people are just, buying more than needed, I think.
That's exactly what happened at some stations as they ran out of gas for a few hours. The demand higher than the supply, and Gill says that's a domino effect.
It's going to cause spike at certain stations that are able to provide fuel. And another thing is, in our case, we don't care what the cost is. We basically ask our supplier, name your price, we want it.
His trucks are ready to drive to Pennsylvania to get the gas if needed. Patience will be the name of the game for the next few days, although Divers was happy to top off.
I hope it's going to be worth it. I haven't been here too long, so thankfully the lines have been moving pretty quickly. But I'll say, yeah, I think as long as everyone doesn't panic, that's the most important part.
Virginia Governor Ralph Northam did issue a state of emergency earlier today in response to what's going on, although he did say that Virginia and the Commonwealth have enough fuel reserves for at least the near term. That state of emergency waives certain restrictions and makes it easier for local governments and companies to get fuel to where it needs to be. Live in Roanoke, Shane Dwyer, 10 News, working for you.
Since yesterday, the average price of gas in Virginia has gone up slightly by 3 cents. Here's a breakdown of the averages. Right now, regular is at about $2.79 a gallon, mid-grade at $3.15, and premium at $3.46.
A fill-up frenzy grips South Florida. Concerns over the gas supply from the Colonial Pipeline hacking have now created this self-inflicted supply issue.
Most of our gas arrives here by sea, by tanker to ports. Nonetheless, a lot of people worried, and News Channel 5's Matt Cesney in West Palm Beach, where one station is out of gas. Matt?
Yeah, Michael, this Marathon gas station on Belvedere in West Palm Beach ran out of gas just after 4 o'clock this afternoon. They have covered all the pumps here with these plastic bags. Drivers are still pulling in thinking they found gas. Then they see this and they have to keep driving on. It is creating a panic for some. In West Palm Beach along Belvedere Road, Bob Nelson,
I'm a carpenter by trade,
was looking for gas.
Well, this is my first try today, so.
He literally came up empty since this station only has premium gas. The regular, long gone.
Nobody can pump your gas.
Well, I got 20 cents worth.
That's it.
That's it.
The run on gas recently comes on the news of the Colonial Pipeline disruption, a huge gas supply link for a large part of the East Coast. But gas in South Florida, experts say, doesn't come from that pipeline. And any shortage here is over panic buying.
Most of it is human behavior. Most of it, and I call it guzzlegate, is really, what's happening is in fuel is what happened in toilet paper.
It's not stopping anxious drivers, though, from gassing up.
They're running out in North Florida, but now it looks like it's contagious. I'm going to try another place, see if they have regular.
In Delray Beach, it was the same situation. Stations running out and drivers feeling lucky to find a place that still had gas.
I'm hearing that everywhere's running out of gas, and I don't want to run out of gas.
I think it's kind of like every other time there's any chance you're going to run out of gas. People run to the pump, fill their tank, probably won't even use it for a month.
Gas industry experts say if it wasn't for this panic buying, South Florida would have plenty of gas for cars and SUVs and trucks. This gas station's owner says he is expecting a tanker delivery, but he just doesn't know when that truck is coming. Michael?
Talk about self-inflicted headaches. Matt, as you've been driving around this day, what are you seeing at other gas stations? More of the same, empty tanks, long lines?
Yeah, more of the same. We got reports early this morning during the morning rush hour that there were a lot of long lines at gas stations, but by mid-morning we found many of those lines had disappeared because gas stations either ran out of gas or only had one grade left, like this station, which had the premium 93 all day. But of course, that grade of gasoline sells at a higher price.
Matt, as always, thank you. Matt Cesney reporting for us, and we're hearing from you, of course, so we're going in depth as the gas station shortages widen. Here is a look, a state-by-state breakdown. According to Gas Buddy, nearly 1,800 gas stations are out of gas in 7 southeastern states. And you see the numbers. Virginia and North Carolina impacted the most out of that batch. Florida 3.2%. Again, most of our gas comes by tanker, not by pipeline. But again, 3.2% of stations in Florida currently reporting that they're without gasoline.
Panicked Americans are filling up their tanks as fears of a gas shortage grows. The nation's biggest fuel pipeline is still shut down following a cyber attack last week. Officials have urged drivers not to hoard fuel, but those warnings are being overlooked by some. According to Gas Buddy, pumps at nearly 1,800 stations have run dry. So Laura Podesta is joining us this morning. Laura, I've been watching these stories and wondering, should I be filling up my gas tank? It seems like the gas is still flowing. What's going on?
Well, here in New York City, you're absolutely fine, Anne Marie. We spoke to a worker here at the Mobile Mart behind me, and he said there is no shortage, though he is seeing more customers than ever before, and they're not just filling up their tanks or topping them off a quarter of a tank or half a tank. They are filling them up just in case. But I should mention the CEO of Colonial Pipeline said earlier in this week that we should have the Colonial Pipeline back up and fully running by the end of this week.
I think we're going to go on a wild goose chase. This is worse than a hurricane.
Long lines like this are exactly what officials say is adding to the problems at gas stations around the Southeast.
It's not that we have a gasoline shortage, it's that we have this supply crunch and that things will be back to normal soon.
The Energy Department waived some environmental and safety rules to speed up fuel deliveries.
We put a stop to the can sales today. People were coming in and loading, trying to buy, 5 and 10 cans worth of gasoline. They're just hoarding it.
The panic buying began after a ransomware attack targeted Colonial Pipeline on Friday, forcing the company to shut down. The 5,500-mile pipeline supplies 40% of the East Coast fuel. Shortages are being reported in at least 7 states.
Panic buying of gas right now will create this artificial demand that will make all of this worse.
For some, the rush to buy fuel is conjuring up memories of stocking up on supplies at the start of the coronavirus pandemic.
I'm thinking the best scenario is going to be to have everybody stay at home, which we do have practice staying at home, right?
It reminds me of last March when everybody was going crazy buying up food.
Federal officials say they have no tolerance for price gouging, like what happened at this Virginia gas station.
A $2.99 gas station, which is a mile away, came back through here. It's $5.99 now. It's $6.59.
Colonial says it expects to be up and running by the end of the week.
Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida have all declared states of emergency, and American Airlines has added stops to some of its long-haul flights so that planes can refuel at airports outside of the Southeast. Anne-Marie.
So, Laura, some energy departments have waived some environmental safety rules in an attempt to speed up fuel deliveries across the Southeast and, ease people's concerns. When are they expected to see the results of that, though? When will there be gas in some of these dry pumps?
Within the coming days, as you mentioned, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, it has lifted some of its fuel quality requirements. The White House says that it is considering waiving a law that says that ships delivering products between U.S. ports must be manned and built by Americans. And the Transportation Department is enlisting railroads to move even more fuel inland. In Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp suspended state taxes on motor fuels, and that'll last until Saturday. So lots of changes to try and alleviate the issues. Anne-Marie.
Laura, the thing about this Colonial hack is we've actually, covered a number of stories of private companies that have been hacked. It isn't the only ransomware attack happening right now.
No, right now all eyes are on D.C. and the police department there, which has been hacked. It was hacked last month, but there are reverberating problems. The group says that it has stolen 250 gigabytes worth of data and personal information on police officers there, and it will be releasing that data in batches until its demands are met. The head of the U.S. Cybersecurity Agency has warned that other critical infrastructure here in the U.S. could be next. Anne-Marie.
Very concerning. Laura Podesta, thank you.
I've been at this Shell gas station in East Cobb, the Marietta area,
for a bunch of hours. I've been here since about 5 o'clock, and this is probably the longest I've seen this line get. It goes all the way to the traffic light, and in the past 20 minutes or so, this line was slightly little longer. But you know, we were kind of watching a car for the last hour or so, and it took them about 45 minutes to get to the pump. And I actually stepped into the convenience store and heard that they ran out of gas at one of the pumps here, and that's something we're kind of seeing throughout Georgia. And the people I spoke to today, they tell me, yes, the prices are high, but it could be worse.
Right now it's almost $4 a gallon. I feel like I'm in California.
Flashbacks to the early days of the pandemic where toilet paper became a rare find. Now the rarity in Georgia is finding gas under $3.
It's my first time going through like prices like this, but to me, I just think it's really crazy because everybody's trying to go in front of the other person.
Governor Brian Kemp announced he was suspending the state fuel tax to prevent price gouging and to assure Georgians that gas prices wouldn't skyrocket. But just because you're paying more at the gas station doesn't mean they are profiting from it, according to Kennesaw State economics professor Roger Totaro.
They may have to pay a higher price to replace the gasoline that's in their inventory that they're selling to you. And so you really would have to show that there's an abnormal profit being generated at the expense of consumers because of the unexpected event.
He says right now the Southeast is seeing an increase of about 9 cents per gallon, while the West Coast is experiencing about half of that, 4 cents. Totaro says that impact could last at least a week after the pipeline shutdown is resolved.
Clearly, the effect of the Colonial Pipeline is more pronounced here locally, and we expect that you could see prices rise even higher as we work our way through the week.
11 Alive reached out to several gas retailers about the shutdown. Racetrack says some of its gas stations in the region are experiencing temporary fuel outages. Kroger asks that if you don't need fuel, don't rush out and top off your tank as they try to maintain supplies where they can. BP said it's working to provide continued service during the unexpected outage.
Most of the gas stations by my house are completely closed. It's traffic jams, long lines. I was just shocked, you know?
Long lines. That is something, again, we're seeing here at the Shell gas station that's actually open 24 hours. Well, that's until there is enough gas to help all these people here in line today. And while Totaro says that, yes, you should expect prices to continue to increase in the next coming days, you should keep in mind that law enforcement agencies are asking people to still report any cases of price gouging. And we've got that number on 11alive.com.
All right, Paula, thank you. So people are indeed panicking at the pump. This video out of East Cobb where cars are lining up to fill up. New tonight, experts say, hold up, calm down. You don't need to hoard gas or race to the pump right now.
There was no cause for, say, hoarding toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic. There should be no cause for hoarding gasoline.
All right, let's put you at ease. Here is why you should stay calm. Gas Buddy says panic buying can make these gas outages and shortages last even longer. Not something we want, right? Plus, if supply goes down because of panic buying, experts say it could also drive the prices up even more. So if you can, experts recommend conserving your gas. They say this hopefully won't last much longer. They predict the pipeline will open back up by the end of the week.
All right, thanks a lot, Aisha.
Turning now to our top story this morning, the gas crunch we're feeling in the metro and across the Southeast could be coming to an end soon. About 12 hours ago, Colonial Pipeline restarted operations nearly a week after a ransomware attack forced it to shut down. And the long lines and gas shortages around the area won't change immediately. Just before midnight, Gas Buddy reported outages at 50% of gas stations across Georgia. And right here in the metro, 70% of them are dry. That was the latest number as of last night. We have team coverage this morning as we take a closer look at just how long you may be feeling the impact of this gas shortage. We're also examining how it's now trickling down to first responders and your safety. Joe Ripley kicks it off for us. He's live outside a gas station off Sidney Marcus Boulevard with the latest on the pipeline being restored. Joe.
Hey, good morning, Sheba. Here at the QT on Sidney Marcus Boulevard. You can see a few cars behind me here trying to fill up on some regular gas. That's all that's available right now, going for $2.89 a gallon. So not too bad right here. A few gas stations in the area, according to GasBuddy.com, also have some gas available. Certainly some good news that Colonial Pipeline has resumed services, but it could still be several days before we see those bags off of those pumps and those long lines reduced again. Some markets could see service interruptions for several days. Keeping in mind, Colonial Pipeline is based in Alpharetta. It was one of the major sources of fuel for the entire East Coast. The company is not saying, though, what it had to do to recover from that ransomware hack that hijacked its servers. That hack also caused headaches for drivers, many of you watching at home. Governor Brian Kemp suspended the state fuel tax here in Georgia until Saturday to try and keep prices low as retail inventories slowly build back up.
We're just urging people to be patient, get what you need, but don't get more than you need. Give your fellow citizens the opportunity to do the same, and just know that we're doing everything in our power to move the fuel here as quick as possible.
GasBuddy.com is predicting that life at the pump, what it has looked like over the past week, we could still be seeing that over the next several weeks, and that could prove to be a problem for many of you planning to travel for Memorial Day weekend.
And Joe, we know demand is extremely high, but what else is holding us back from seeing progress at the pump?
You know, we spoke with analysts at GasBuddy.com, and they're saying the panic buying, the hoarding, it only makes sky-high demand that much worse. So they are advising against it. Things will eventually get back to normal, but we also want to note that you can find where gas is available in your area. Just head to 11alive.com.
All right, Joe Ripley at the QT along Sidney Marcus Boulevard in Buckhead, the same location where our Mara Sirianni was just yesterday, and it's the same price. It's good news, $2.89 a gallon.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on a busy Wednesday. We're going to begin tonight with breaking news because drivers along the East Coast have turned fears of a fuel crisis into an actual one, with panicked people emptying gas pumps at more than 10,000 stations across the Southeast. And as we come on the air, Colonial Pipeline, which supplies nearly half of the gas on the East Coast, says it has just restarted its operations after being hit by a ransomware attack this weekend. But it could take days before all that gas makes it to individual stores. And that's too late for many cities, including Atlanta, Charlotte, and Raleigh, where there are reports that as many as 70% of stations have run dry. Online rumors and social media posts have helped fuel the hysteria, leading worried customers to line up for hours and pushing the price per gallon up as much as 10 cents in South Carolina. Well, tonight, the national average is now above $3 a gallon. That's actually the highest it's been in nearly 7 years. And the government is warning that people in search of fuel could do something dangerous as they attempt to hoard extra gas. So CBS's Manuel Bojorquez is going to lead off our coverage tonight from North Carolina, where the situation is growing worse by the hour. Good evening, Manny.
Good evening, Nora. That late word of the pipeline restarting will certainly come as a relief to drivers in these long lines, but not an immediate one because it's not like flipping a switch. The fuel still has to travel through the supply chain before once again reaching the gas pumps. So things may not get back to normal for several days.
Tonight, panicked drivers in North Carolina are sitting in long lines for hours, trying to fill up as the state is running low on gas.
How hard was it to find the gas station?
This is my fifth one that I've been to.
Your fifth one today?
Yes.
How low were you?
I'm on E.
According to GasBuddy, 68% of gas stations across North Carolina are out of gas, and almost half of the stations are out in Georgia, South Carolina, and Virginia, 4 states that have declared a state of emergency. An old viral video prompted the federal government today to post a tweet saying, "Do not fill plastic bags with gasoline."
How much of it is panic buying?
The problem is that when people see that and you tell them to stay calm, it's like taking a box and putting a sign that says, "Do not look under this box."
There are now concerns about price gouging, with one Richmond, Virginia gas station seen charging $7 a gallon. The panic buying began after a ransomware attack targeted Colonial Pipeline on Friday, forcing the company, which delivers 40% of the fuel from Houston to New Jersey, to shut the pipeline down.
The most effective way to address the fuel shortages we're experiencing is for everyone to remain calm and only get the fuel you need to carry out essential activities.
The Energy Department waived some environmental rules for 12 states and Washington, D.C. to help increase the supply of fuel.
I've lifted some of the restrictions on the transportation of fuel, as well as access to the United States military providing fuel.
The disruption also impacted jet fuel and diesel to several states. Today, several major airlines told CBS News that they are carrying enough fuel on board to limit refueling in an effort to preserve local supplies.
Just to give you a sense of the stress level here at this gas station, there are now only 2 working pumps and 2 long lines trying to get to them. All of these drivers hoping they won't be the first to find out this station has also run dry. Nora?
Just incredible. Manny Bojorquez, thank you.
Gas pipeline that delivers nearly half of the fuel on the East Coast remains shut down, paralyzed by a cyber attack. Now the disruption is creating a mad dash to the pump in some parts of the Southeast, including Florida. The FBI says a private group of Russian hackers called DarkSide is responsible for the cyber attack that has crippled the Colonial Pipeline that runs from Texas to New Jersey. Colonial Pipeline is working to restart its paralyzed computer systems. It hopes to reopen the line later this week. Meanwhile, we have had several people contact us about stations being out of gas or long lines at pumps around the Gulf Coast. Nicolette Schleisman is live at the Sam's Club gas station near Airport and 65. And Nicolette, tell us, are you seeing some long lines there?
Yeah, definitely we are, and this is basically what we've been seeing all day long. There's been a long line, but it's been fairly quick. Now, if you are familiar with this area, you know that there's a gas station just around the corner from where we are right now, and there's no line at that gas station. And people we spoke with earlier said that they came to the Sam's Club because this is the cheapest price that they've seen for gas.
No, I hadn't seen a shortage anywhere.
Cars lined up around the Sam's Club gas station this afternoon waiting to fill up.
Just another 10 gallons, give to my daughter.
This is my 3rd time coming out.
Many said they had seen lines at other gas stations in Mobile.
And that's everywhere I've been.
Really? How many gas stations have you been to?
About 5. Really? From Schillinger down here.
There's just lines all around.
This as many blame the rush on gas stations on the attack on the Colonial Pipeline, which is the nation's largest. It was the victim of a ransomware attack, causing it to shut down. That line pumps millions of gallons of gas per day, running from Texas through Alabama to New Jersey. According to the Petroleum and Convenience Marketers of Alabama, some of our gas along the Gulf Coast does come from that pipeline, but we do have other outlets to get gas from.
At this point, there is no problem in terms of refineries being able to produce gasoline and diesel fuel. That hasn't been impacted by this at all. The only problem is the distribution of the refined gasoline.
Many we spoke with say they haven't seen a shortage on gas in Mobile, but are gassing up now just in case.
I don't think that the gas short, but I don't want to be caught in the cold without gas.
I think it's all just a panic. Again, our government's good at doing that.
Experts are urging people to not rush out and buy gas.
Please don't panic. Continue your normal buying habits.
Alabama Governor Kay Ivey issued a statement saying that there is currently no shortage of gas in Alabama, and she is encouraging people to only fill up when you have to and don't fill up any extra containers. Reporting live off I-65, Nicolette Schleisman, WKRG News 5.
We have been getting calls all evening from viewers telling us they are shocked to see just how much the price of gas is rising at some places. In some cases, the price went up several times within several minutes. Our Shannon Lilly spoke to some of those drivers tonight, and she also looked into questions about possible price gouging. She joins us live now. Shannon, what did you find out?
Well, Candace, we know that experts are telling us that the price of gas will and is expected to continue to rise over the coming days. But if you're seeing a large spike in the matter of hours or even minutes, then you should definitely look for another place to fill up.
Letha Kearney. It was a lot of people and that no one looked at the price. Took a hit to the wallet. I had a half a tank of gas. So when it got to $25, I started looking to see what was going on. And after I got to $30, I was like, oh my God. When she unassumingly pulled up to a Richmond BP gas station on Williamsburg Road Tuesday. I spent $35.45 to fill up my tank, 6 gallons of gas. For $35, that's absolutely ridiculous.
She says it's double what she'd typically spend.
Usually it's under $3. This BP service station has always been the cheapest, and I didn't even look at the price before I started pumping.
Cha-Cha lives just blocks away from the station and says she watched as the price climbed higher and higher.
So then I drove up the road to get gas at a $2.99 gas station, which is a mile away, came back through here. It's $5.99.
Even in the span of our 15-minute interview.
And now it's $6.59.
And within a few minutes, that $6.59 was up to $6.99.
You can't do that to people.
After CBS 6 spoke with a store official about the prices, the sign was turned off, and a store official said they were completely out of gas. This all happening hours after Governor Northam declared a state of emergency following the Colonial Pipeline ransomware cyber attack, leading to gasoline shortages in the state. In a statement, Attorney General Mark Herring warned the attack could not only create disruptions in the gasoline supply across the Commonwealth. He says, quote, "Unfortunately, bad actors could take advantage of this just to line their own pockets." Michael Wallace, spokesperson for the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, says anyone who feels they've been gouged by gas prices should file a complaint with them.
The office will conduct an investigation and then turn those results over to the Office of the Attorney General.
He says gouging happens when a supplier charges unconscionable prices on necessary goods during a state of emergency, and says he has inquired internally with the VDAC's Office of Weights and Measures to look into the BP gas station on Williamsburg Road. An investigation would look into the price the gas station had to pay for the fuel, as well as the price for gas in the immediate area, to determine whether it's gouging. In the meantime,
the big concern is that people are going to start panic buying because we're talking about this.
AAA Mid-Atlantic spokesperson Morgan Dean says now is not the time to rush out and fill up your tank.
Panic buying of gas right now will create this artificial demand that will make all of this worse.
It's crazy.
And Kearney certainly recommends you look before you buy.
6 gallons of gas, $35. I'm going to have to sleep on this one.
Now, in that statement from Attorney General Mark Herring, he adds that Virginians should not have to worry about paying exorbitant prices for gas or any other necessary goods. And he does encourage any Virginian who has a price gouging complaint to report it. We will have a link on our website for where you can do that.
And now the gas crunch along parts of the East Coast heading into the work week. Some places facing significant shortages still days after the pipeline started moving. Washington, D.C. and parts of the Southeast hardest hit. Here's ABC's Elwin Lopez reporting in from Atlanta.
Tonight at gas stations along the East Coast, fuel is flowing again.
We're so excited!
Colonial's massive 5,500-mile pipeline is back up, and the company says it is delivering millions of gallons per hour. But lingering fuel outages still plaguing the nation's capital. As of this morning, 80% of D.C. stations experiencing shortages. ABC's Elizabeth Schultze found Rita Gunther near one of them, her car out of gas on the side of the road.
So how long have you been stuck here?
Since Friday night.
Friday night, you haven't been able to move your car at all. And you haven't been able to get gas for the car.
Right.
North Carolina still feeling the pinch too.
Every day you have to literally get up, wake up, and the first thing you have to prioritize is finding fuel.
This is not the result of the Colonial Pipeline being shut down, rather news of the pipeline and how that fed fear that there wouldn't be enough gasoline. Americans started to hoard and panic.
Experts at Gas Buddies say once the level of alarm goes down, stations should fill up within days.
And Lindsay, Gas Buddies says it could take up to 2 weeks for certain areas to get back to normal. Lindsay.
Elwin, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
An update on a cyber attack that is now causing gas shortages in multiple states. Lines are already forming at gas stations in the Southeast, including at this one in Tallahassee, Florida. So far, 7 states have seen a small number of stations actually run out of gas, including Virginia, where more than 6% are without fuel. North Carolina has already declared a state of emergency. The FBI says a private group of hackers called DarkSide is responsible. Ed O'Keefe has more.
From Florida to North Carolina,
Drivers made a run for gas, waiting in long lines across the southeast in anticipation of a shortage.
You don't want to miss out. You don't want to be the one that doesn't get gas.
The shutdown of the pipeline's also putting major airports in Baltimore, Charlotte, and others on the East Coast at risk of low supply. Federal officials worked through the weekend to monitor the fallout, and the Transportation Department's making it easier to move fuel by truck to address supply disruptions. The FBI says a hacking group known as DarkSide is responsible. It appears to be Russia-based.
So far, there is no evidence based on from our intelligence people that Russia is involved, although there is evidence that the actors' ransomware is in Russia. They have some responsibility to deal with this.
Like U.S. Colonial Pipeline, 85% of American critical infrastructure is owned and operated by the private sector. And experts say collaboration between the government and companies is crucial. Kirsten Todd is managing director of the Cyber Readiness Institute.
And if a company like Colonial Pipeline with resources available to it isn't doing the basics, then we have to do a better job making sure our small businesses have the resources and the knowledge and the awareness about what they can do to prevent a ransomware attack.
And Todd says the U.S. needs to aggressively prosecute the hackers and the countries harboring them.
If somebody had put a bomb on this pipeline and had disrupted it for a week, we would have no question as to the type of response we would have and the consequences.
As for gas prices, our friends at AAA tell us that this is a short-term event. Shouldn't be that much of an impact on price or supply. But of course, if this goes a little longer, Anthony, we could have a bit of a problem.
Yeah, let's hope not, Ed. Thank you very much.
Right now, operators of the Colonial Pipeline are working to get it operational once again after a cyber attack.
It's happening as some gas stations are out of fuel. CBS 17's Joseph Holloway live at one of those stations that is not having or does not have any gas with how our state leaders are now responding. Joseph.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Right now, we are at the Murphy USA location. This is along New Hope Road, and you can see where there are bags over all of these gas pumps here this morning. That's because they confirm that they are out of gas, and you can see people like this. We've seen a lot of people driving up this morning, hoping to get gas, but then just having to drive away. We've checked with GasBuddy.com and found a few stations in Raleigh and Cary without gas. So Governor Cooper declared that state of emergency yesterday, temporarily suspending motor vehicle fuel regulations, which he says will ensure there's enough supply across the state. The attack could also mean higher prices at the pump, possibly reaching the highest level since 2014. In fact, AAA is reporting a 6% or 6-cent jump nationally on average since last week. And they say that locally you could see anywhere from a 3 to 7 cent spike this week. And coming up in a few minutes, what experts are asking drivers to avoid doing for now. For now, we're live in Raleigh. Joseph Holloway, CBS 17 News.
Developing right now at noon, a state of emergency declared here in Florida after more than 1,000 gas stations in the southeast have reported running out of fuel after panic buying.
It comes after a cyber attack led to the shutdown of a major pipeline that supplies nearly half of the fuel used on the East Coast. Local 10 News reporter Ian Margle joins us live from a gas station this midday.
And he tells us about the scramble right now to find new fuel routes following the hack. And boy, I saw long lines at the pump on my way into work today, Ian.
Oh, absolutely. And we are just around the corner from the station right now. And all morning long, this station here behind me has been seeing cars lined up. And this is kind of what we're seeing all over the country. The problem is here in South Florida, there really is no reason for it. We do not have a gas shortage in South Florida. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis did declare a state of emergency yesterday in response to the gas shortages that have been caused by the shutdown of a major pipeline, but that pipeline does not bring gas to us here in South Florida. The only reason you may see your local gas station running out of gasoline is because of lines like these. People panicking for no reason, hoarding gas like you would for a hurricane or toilet paper for a COVID lockdown. And yet Sky 10 saw massive lines over 3 gas stations at Southwest 152nd Street and 137th Avenue, cars curling around the building. Again, absolutely no need to be filling up multiple tanks of gas because there is no shortage of gasoline right now in South Florida. The reason we do not have a shortage in our area is because we don't get our gasoline from the Colonial Pipeline that was hacked. Our fuel comes in mostly from the Gulf on ships into our ports and is then trucked from the ports to our gas stations. In fact, Port Everglades sent out a tweet just a little while ago, and I want to read it to you. It says, "Our fuel supply has not been impacted by the Colonial Pipeline ransomware incident. Schedule for inbound fuel ships looks strong. We are monitoring the possibility that ships may be diverted to assist other regions, but SOFLA supply is expected to remain consistent." Basically, right now, experts are saying this is becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. As people panic buy as they go to their gas stations and fill up multiple tanks of gas, then your gas station is going to run out of gas. But not because their supply is short, it's just because they're getting their normal supply and people are using it much faster than normal. Now, President Biden was asked about the nationwide shortages affecting the Southeast other than us here in South Florida. He was asked that this morning in a meeting with Senate and House leaders. He did not answer right away, but we are expecting to hear from him later today, and we could get some information from him about that. We will keep you posted as soon as we learn anything else. For now, we are live in Pembroke Park. I'm Ian Margol. Don't panic buy gas. Local 10 News.
Reports of gas shortages in at least 8 states right now.
And 4 states declaring states of emergency as gas prices now spike in the wake of that fallout. So many images like this one across the country, those long, long lines at the pump.
Air travel also impacted. Some flights may soon be canceled due to fuel shortages. Our transportation correspondent, Gio Benitez, has all the latest from Atlanta. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, Michael, good morning. Yeah, this gas station just got a delivery overnight, and they're already running out. Only regular is left here. Across the street, there is no gas at all. And then there's the price. AAA now says that the national average is over $3 a gallon. This morning, states of emergency declared in Georgia, Florida, Virginia, and North Carolina as pressure at the pump spreads up and down the East Coast.
We have sold 4,000 plus gallons within 3 hours. We're already out of unleaded regular. Cars lining up waiting to refill their tanks as prices rise and pumps run dry at more than 1,000 gas stations.
Everywhere I go, it's bags over the gas pumps.
I don't want to hoard up anything. I'm just trying to make sure I can get to my appointments.
A nearby motorist snapping this photo of a man appearing to fill several cans at a Myrtle Beach gas station. The Secretary of Energy urging Americans to be patient.
Much as there was no cause for, say, hoarding toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic, there should be no cause for hoarding gasoline.
As the shutdown of the Colonial Pipeline enters its 6th day, fuel price monitor GasBuddy reporting extreme outages in major cities overnight. 60% of stations in Norfolk depleted, 50% in Atlanta, and 35% in Charlotte. The shortage creating dire situations for many.
I've got a gallon in the tank, and I live in Moxville. I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to get back to here, to home.
If I don't get gas, I'm going to be sleeping in my car tonight at work.
Even some airlines are starting to feel the effects. Americans saying it will have to make pit stops for fuel on some long-haul flights to Hawaii and Europe, and cancellations could be next. Now, some Homeland Security officials are calling the cyber attack the most devastating ransomware attack on critical infrastructure in the U.S. to date. And the CEO of Colonial says the company will make a decision today about when to restart that pipeline. It'll take a few days to be fully operational.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Here at home, 10 News reporter Tim Harfman spent the day talking to drivers and store managers. So, Tim, what's the situation like where you are?
Well, Lindsay and John, we're on Timberlake Road in Campbell County, just outside of Lynchburg. And I'm going to show you, you can see behind me a steady flow of vehicles. Now, we haven't seen long lines today and places completely out of gas. But with a shortage, there is some concern. And AAA says that you should be prepared, but not panic. Motorists are filling up on fuel, concerned over soaring prices at the pump.
Just filling up my tank, topping it off, and just filling up a gas can just in case.
I saw it on the news this morning, and yeah, it concerned me a little bit, you know.
prices are high enough.
The Colonial Pipeline provides almost half of the fuel for the East Coast. AAA says with the shutdown, Virginians could be affected.
The longer this outage goes along the pipeline, the bigger the impact could be on us seeing more and more stations running out of fuel, and what stations do have fuel selling it at higher prices because of demand.
Virginia saw a 3-cent increase overnight, and it could continue to climb. AAA recommends drivers fill up once their vehicle reaches a quarter of a tank.
If they're panic buying gas every time they're out, refilling as quickly as possible, that's going to create artificial demand, and that's going to cause problems down the road.
In Campbell County, gas station manager Mohammed Tahir says if he doesn't get a delivery soon, he may run out.
I think it's a big concerning thing, and we don't know when it's going to be fixed.
He says he ordered more diesel and premium yesterday, but
they're not saying anything right now. They're saying that it could take up to a week or so. So we have to, just sit and wait.
Down the road, manager Jerry Etheridge isn't too concerned at the moment.
Right now, we've had no problem. I mean, our loads are all coming in just on a regular schedule. Now, whether that changes during the next few weeks, I don't know.
They're hoping they won't have to raise prices.
It's a time when we should take care of our community instead of, thinking about money.
And AAA says that moving into the summer driving season, we're just 2.5 weeks away from Memorial Day weekend. They're expecting prices to increase, but they say right now, again, you should be prepared, but not panic. Live in Campbell County, Tim Harfman, 10 News, working for you.
Drivers are in panic mode with lines stretching a mile long and some gas stations running dry.
This line for gas is crazy.
Now drivers from Maine to Florida are rushing to the pumps, waiting on lines that are reminding lots of people of the oil crisis from long ago.
Gas shortages in multiple states.
North Carolina declaring a state of emergency.
The longer that pipeline remains dry, the more likely you and I will pay more at the gas pump.
But there are things you can do to make your gas last longer, says AAA's Robert Sinclair.
Robert, we all want to stretch our gas these days. How do we do it?
His first tip, make sure you perform routine maintenance checks.
How could proper maintenance save you on your gas? How does that happen?
The engine is running at its optimum. It is running efficiently. It's going to be burning gasoline most efficiently. It's very important to make sure the engine is in good running condition to save gasoline.
Another tip, make sure your tires are properly inflated.
How much gas can you actually save, Robert, by keeping your tires inflated?
It could be as much as 1% of your overall fuel economy per tire.
Other ways of conserving gas, drive at a lower speed limit. And if you're commuting, try a carpool.
That's an excellent way of saving gasoline. And imagine if everyone was driving individually, if there are 3 or 4 people in the car, that'd be that many more cars on the road, all burning gasoline.
Colonial Pipeline is up and running again as the company continues to transport gas and supplies to major markets throughout the southeast and the east coast. But the pumps at most gas stations in the Triangle and central North Carolina remain empty. Now, this continues to be a source of frustration for drivers we talk to who are not only trying to find gas, but then deal with higher prices caused by the shutdown. Tiffany Wright of AAA of the Carolinas says gas supply should be back to normal within a week's time, but don't expect the spike in prices to lower anytime soon.
I do expect the gas prices are going to continue to climb. It's inevitable because the world is opening up. Demand is going to be going up. So, yeah, prices are going to be, inching upwards for the foreseeable future.
Looks like at least 64% of North Carolina gas stations don't have gas tonight. Experts say gas prices will probably peak about $3.05. They expect that to happen in June. It is 6:04 this morning. People already lining up to get gas this morning. Some have been in line for over an hour, and it's all because of the fallout from that Colonial Pipeline attack.
Yeah, experts are saying don't panic buy, but CBS 17's Joseph Holloway is reporting live this morning. Some people don't want to miss this early opportunity to fill up. And Joseph, I understand that you even saw things getting a little rowdy earlier.
Yeah, we saw someone come up and, make a certain little gesture, tell someone they're number one. Please avoid doing that. But let me tell you, we have a big line that's forming right now. You can see several lines right here in the parking lot of Costco, but this is not it. This is not just it. You go up here toward actually where the pumps are. This is where people are finally getting gas. They opened up just about 15 minutes ago. That line is stretching all the way back out here onto Six Forks Road, going back there toward the intersection of Six Forks and Wake Forest Road. So if you're coming here to Costco, you better expect quite a bit of a wait. I've talked to people who tell me that they've been to several gas stations today and they were not able to find any gas, so that's why they showed up here. But you know, the message that we're hearing from experts: avoid panic buying. AAA and other experts say that the gas is there, but if so many people keep stopping just to top off their tank, it's going to make this problem worse.
They're topping off their car when they don't need to. They're taking an entire fleet of their family vehicles and they're filling those up. They're taking gas cans and they're filling those up. So when you have that kind of behavior at the pump, you're seeing all these long lines. I mean, that's what has led to the shortages. It's not a supply issue at all. It's sometimes as consumers, we can be our own worst enemies.
Now, this morning, we are also learning more about Colonial Pipeline's plan ahead of eventually restarting its system and hopefully resolving a lot of these problems. What's next for the company? We're going to have that coming up in the next half hour. For now, we're live in Raleigh. Joseph Holloway, CBS 17 News.
Across the country, there are visuals like this. People waiting in long lines to fill up at the pump. But there's a lot of misconceptions and straight up misinformation out there. So let's verify 3 fuel facts you need to know. Our sources are Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy and Ken Medlock from the Center for Energy Studies at Rice University. Let's start here. Was this actually a shortage? DeHaan says that despite a lot of confusion saying otherwise, it's actually not.
This issue was a delivery issue. Almost like UPS or FedEx couldn't deliver a package for a few days.
In other words, there's plenty of gas out there, it's just not getting to the consumer. Okay, here's our next question. Why are prices so high right now? AAA says the average price is $3 a gallon nationwide. This time last year, it was $1.85. Our experts say that the gas prices have actually been trending upward since November of last year.
Americans are hitting the road and demand has continued to increase. That is why we're seeing prices go up.
But Medlock tells us that on top of all that, we did see gas prices go up as a result of the pipeline issue.
That 10 to 15 cent move we've seen, depending on where you are, is really the result of the pipeline going down.
Okay, question 3. If you're looking to stock up on gas, how long can you keep it?
The shelf life, 3 to 6 months. It really depends on the time of year, the type of fuel, where you're getting it.
But that assumes that you're using an approved fuel container, which is the safe way to do it. Our experts urge you not to be like the people in these viral videos.
A CVS bag, seriously?
Do not transport gasoline with bottles, milk cartons, or plastic bags.
Do not do that. That is incredibly dangerous.
With your Verify, this is Evan Kozloff.
Well, here's some more good news. The Colonial Pipeline is back up and running, but still fuel a hot commodity here in the Charlotte area. Some of you might be stuck or out of gas. We're still seeing long lines and higher prices at the pump, certainly around the metro area anyway. For more information on this situation, WCNC Charlotte's Lana Harris. She's live for us in Uptown. Lana, since we last saw you, has the situation improved any, or are there still lines and bagged handles?
Oh, yeah, definitely still lines here. We actually saw 2 people run out of gas in the line while we were here today. But just driving around, it's the same story. Either they have no gas or they have long lines like this at their station. But this here is a really good sign, I will tell you, because this gas station on Graham Street has had gas since before noon, and they still have some. But you know what? It's expensive, and more so than it has been for a year. And of course, this is all just leading right into Memorial Day.
Now, I can pay anything to get gas.
Gas tankers filling up stations in Charlotte is a welcome sign.
Yeah, it is.
Especially for Sheg Talloway, who finally found gas at the Shell in Uptown after his car completely ran out.
I live around University City, and all around there there's no gas. And I have my friend have to come and pick me up.
Talloway even used the can he got to put gas in a friend's car that ran out in the line at the same station.
It'll be probably 1 to 2 weeks in most of these areas until buying gasoline is something that you don't have to think about, meaning you pull in, don't have to worry about being out.
Patrick DeHaan with Gas Buddy says until then, people should be on the lookout for price gouging.
If you saw a station go up like 40 cents or 60 cents, that's in quite a bit of excess of the market price.
DeHaan says the price jumped an extra 19 cents in the Tar Heel State because of the pipeline, but should come down a bit.
It probably won't go back down 19 cents, and that's because oil prices have continued to move up since this event started. So you may see prices go down 5 to 10 cents over the next couple of weeks.
But the decline may be short-lived.
Hey,
because Memorial Day is just a few weeks away, almost certainly promising travel.
We're getting in our cars, we're taking vacations, we're feeling better about the economy, and so our demand for fuel goes up, and that in translate pushes gas prices higher.
So Dahan says the only way we could really see gas prices go way lower at this point is if we all collectively stop getting gas for a few weeks and drive the demand down, which is obviously not likely to happen as the world is obviously opening back up. But for now, here in Uptown, I'm Lana Harris, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, so Lana, does this mean that the low prices that we all saw and enjoyed during the pandemic are now, I guess, officially over?
But, you know, during the pandemic, nobody was going anywhere, right? So no drivers, no need for gas, the price goes down. But since we all just rushed for gas during this panic buy situation that we're in, the price is now back up. And again, it would take a lot of people not getting gas again for it to go back down, which isn't likely to happen since the world is opening back up and people are able to travel more. Bill?
Right. All right, Lana, thanks. And remember, everybody, you can be a part of this coverage. We'd love to have you. If you see a gas station that's run out of gas, if you can, pull out your cell phone, go to the news app, the WCNC News app, and hit Near Me. That's in the bottom right-hand corner. You can upload your photo or video. You can also send us pictures on social media by using our Twitter and Facebook.
Gas pumps have been jam-packed all day on Padre Island as residents fill up their tanks in fear of a possible gas shortage in Texas. Now, this comes after one of the largest fuel pipelines was shut down after being hacked. However, new at 6, literally just later in the afternoon, that pipeline, officials with the pipeline announced that they are resuming operations today. Our Alexis Green spoke with a local economist who assured the Coastal Bend has no need to panic.
The message is that we will not be in danger of not having any gas. If anything, actually, it's the opposite. You know, we'll be having a surplus.
Dr. Jim Lee, economics professor at TAMUCC, says the panic is stemming from a recent shutdown of one of the largest fuel pipelines in the U.S. And although there are gas shortages occurring in other states, Corpus Christi is located to the west of Houston and will not face issues when it comes to filling up.
But the fact is that we are not in the Carolinas, right? We are not in the East Coast. Okay, we're no, you know, we are. I can tell you that I'm very confident that we will not be affected by the gas shortages.
Dr. Lee says flocking to the gas pumps won't help the situation either.
But then again, you know, because now there is a lot of panic buying. And, you know, a lot of things are going on. I mean, I would say, I'm going to use the word, I mean, the market is going crazy.
According to Dr. Lee, the disruptions at the Colonial Pipeline are not major, and he predicts they could be resolved within days, if not hours.
So we're not talking about real physical disruptions in oil supply or gasoline supply. Okay, so it's only, there's a little glitch, if you will, okay?
In short, Texas and Corpus Christi are not facing a gas shortage and aren't expected to. Lexis Green, 3 News.